State of the Union, Joe, who's late in light, and Rob. We will be talking about from the volcano that will one day destroy us all. Welcome to Subtle Propaganda. I'm Drew, coming to you live from the volcano that will one day destroy us all. Joining me is Three Circles Mike, who has no idea what a Venn diagram is, Integrity Joe, who's late in light, and Rob. We will be talking about pop culture, world news, politics, military culture, fight videos, and the general state of the union. Are we charlatans? I don't know. You decide. Oh, and remember, like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends, and don't forget to tell us how wrong we were in the comments.
What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yo,
Taking a little hiatus. We had some pretty major life events, so we took the time, got together, and just chilled in sunny San Diego for a while. But we're back, bring you all the good stuff, all the good info.
I'll drink to that.
Heck yeah. But yeah, I graduated college. I'm officially a grown up. I have a little piece of paper that says I can get a job now. So
yeah, you guys
I'm back in the workforce. Yeah, we did the thing.
Yeah, fucking college, dude. What a waste of time. I'll say it again to everybody out there. Don't send your fucking kids to college. It's a waste of time.
Huge waste
Quit
of
early
time.
and quit often.
Dude, oh my gosh. If I didn't get it for free, I would have never gone. I mean,
Oh,
I think
100%.
it's crazy that I can't. But dude, my tuition was $72,000 a year.
Yeah,
Could
that's
you imagine
insane.
putting yourself $250,000 in debt to go to school?
Oh, I can imagine.
It's crazy,
Yeah, Drew's
dude.
about to go down that hole soon, depending on how well he can figure out the finances. But Drew might be there soon.
Yeah, Drewski,
Yeah.
what you got going on?
Yeah, so when we were together in San Diego, we were just celebrating these two jokers finally finished their undergrad and getting their big boy jobs and becoming a regular part of society now. And while we were there, I happened to get lucky enough to where I got into medical school. I applied to 53 different programs. I got rejected by 52 and got waitlisted on one. And last week I came off the waitlist and got accepted. So
Beast mode.
fucking big change for me. But yeah, I'm
That's
about to be $250,000 in debt, possibly. So
But you'll get to be a doctor, bro.
yeah, it's true. I will be a physician. So
yeah,
just
going
get the doctor in
as
front
a
of your
physician
name.
doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's
once you
not.
start, I mean, even if you come out, even if you did the shortest residency, you did family practice, you come out making at least $2.
Oh yeah, if I mean like right there, like right around there for sure.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And you're making money during your residency as well, so you're not completely broke when you're coming out. Like, I mean, you gotta start paying off that debt anyway. So if you're taking it out,
and if you being like, unless you find a chick and get married while you're in med school, if you come out still single and you just hunker down for like a year, you probably, or 2 years, like you just being super strict on your finances, you probably can pay that down a lot, you know. Plus, you'll be working all the time.
So fast.
Yeah. Or like, do you like work in like a rural area or an urban area, and you get that all the loans forgiven?
Oh yeah.
No, no, you don't want to do that, dude. So check this out, man. Like, my mom could have did that because my mom's a teacher. Don't quote me on this. I want to say they wanted her to work for 8 years to get her student loan forgiven. In like in basically like a what is that? Like below the poverty line style school or something. Schools that have like bad, grades and shit. It's like, bro, you don't want to be doing that shit. I actually know a physician. I won't name any names. His wife did it. She worked at a low income clinic, and bro, talk about beating your head against the wall, where you're basically just, if people come in and they got diabetes, they got all these lifestyle problems, and you tell them like, hey man, like, if you don't want to lose your foot, like just stop eating McDonald's, make some healthier life choices. And, I'm sure that for some of them, really literally does come down to money. Like, for some of them, it's like literally they have 99 cents to eat that meal. And so they're eating off the dollar menu type of thing. But I think for many of them, it's very much just they don't know how to eat and they don't give a fuck. They eat what tastes good and they don't care. And yeah, very sick people, dude, that just won't follow the doctor's orders. Sounded awful, dude.
Yeah. I mean, that's like after thinking more about like going into because now that I got in, everyone's favorite question is, oh, what kind of doctor are you gonna be? And it's like, well, I don't
Right.
fucking know. Like I gotta get through the training to begin with, and then I don't know,
Sure.
maybe get exposure into what I want to do. But like obviously because I'm a corpsman or used to be a corpsman, emergency medicine is, highly appealing. But like you make a really good point. Like I don't want to spend my entire career watching people die like a foot at a time with diabetes and me telling them like, hey, you got to stop, you got to change your lifestyle, or like, some type of mental case coming in and like I'm good, or like drug addict that I have to wrestle down to the pit, like the bed. So
That's it, man.
that's
That's
It
it.
depends where you work, like I have friends that work down in like St. Louis area where it's like he worked there for years and it was just like people calling him for rides to the hospital, through the ambulances. So they were, just taking advantage of the system, like dropping off kids at their hospital so the parents can go party all night long and then picking them up on Monday. And then like
damn. These are the
now he
hospital, the
works
daycare.
literally the children's hospital in St. Louis. They would literally, because they know if you tell them the right words, it's an automatic
Right.
they have to
You
be
have to,
taken in.
yeah.
So they're like, oh, it's perfect. I come in saying they have a fever for 3 days and now they have to be admitted. So they're like, all right, well, we'll be back on Monday, and they'll go out and party all weekend and then come back, and they're like repeat flyers. And
Yeah, when I've
now
worked at hospitals before, I've seen the same exact thing. They have frequent flyers like where you show up with the ambulance and they already have their bags packed. So they put on a show, they do this theater and it's like, dude, like I have diagnostic tools. I can see your vitals and I know you're fine. Like your heart rate's high because you're yelling and shit, but like you're fine. And then they're like, and then it's finally like, all right, well, what do you want to do? You want us to take you to the hospital? And then they go, yes, I do. I think I need to go. And you're like, okay. And they're like, hold on. And then they grab their bags, two
yeah,
fucking
Right,
backpacks,
yeah.
and they get a ride, bro, all the way across
yep.
town,
There's a
free of charge.
ambulance service here that doesn't like try to get paid because they get reimbursed by by the state. So
Yep.
if you don't pay the ambulance bill, they don't hound you, they don't send you to collections, they just get reimbursed. So they'll get calls and they'll be like, I need an ambulance, but only this specific company, because they know they won't have to worry about paying it. But now he
Right.
works in like a nicer area that's not downtown, and he's like, dude, it's so much better, man. The people I run into actually want my help. They're not trying to scam or mooch the system. They're actually genuine, and he's like, it's so much better, just quality of life, knowing that I'm not coming up to a shit show every time I go into a call.
Nah, makes sense. Yeah, I would hate any ER I ever worked at. It was just, yeah, doesn't seem very fulfilling.
No, it's like hollow.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and
it's
just the
like
stuff that you want to do, like the life-saving intervention stuff that you want to do is few and far between. And then, also like the very rare case of someone coming to the ER and actually like really needing to be there. It's like, dude, what's your number one reason someone reports to the ER in the United States? Abdominal pain.
Yep.
Boring. 99% of the time, it ain't gonna be anything. It's not gonna be shit, bro. It's gonna be somebody who's constipated. It's gonna be somebody who's eating bad. It's gonna be somebody who's got some kind of VGE, like whatever. It's gonna be boring. And then you're gonna have that one in a million who's like a dissecting aorta, and like it's gonna be an interesting case or something. Like I don't know. Well, I don't think a dissecting aorta would be very interesting because they probably die very fast. But something crazy, right? Like something wild, like holy shit, this is a unicorn. I've never seen this before.
Right.
So, and usually those cases are terribly sad. Like when I was working in the ER, we had the very first chest tube I ever did was like on a 6-year-old girl who got the unicorn, torsade de poy, the fucking the heart rhythm that you never fucking see ever. It like literally never happens, and it just so happened to hit this little girl. You know what I mean? And she passed away. So it's terrible, right? It's super tragic. It's like you don't want to see that stuff. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like the job I'd want to. That wouldn't be where I would put my money.
Right.
I definitely see the emergency medicine side would be interesting because like being like you said, being a corpsman and like doing like the cool trauma stuff, the actual trauma stuff. But what are the chances you're actually going to do that in the civilian world at a hospital? Besides like your gunshot wounds you'll get if you're in like a big city or something. But unless you like take a contract or take a job somewhere that's like you know more local to doing something that's more like it's interesting emergency medicine than like your death by diabetes types.
Well, that's the thing is that doctors don't do that stuff anyway. Doctors lead healthcare teams. So it's like, there are, especially at a teaching hospital, it's going to be residents and all those people that are going to be doing all that stuff. And the doctor's going to be at the head, like making sure that everyone's doing the right things, that the patient doesn't fucking die. You know what I mean? So like he's going to be making sure that the labs are getting drawn, making sure somebody's getting a line, making sure somebody's getting the chest tube, making sure, he's going to be watching all that stuff getting done. And maybe he'll innovate, maybe. I don't know. Most of the ER guys that I ever worked for, they were just, they didn't do shit. They stood outside the box and they coached and they made sure everybody. But they did. It's not that they didn't do shit. I should clarify. What they didn't do was hands-on medicine like that. You have all the underlings that do that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're more conductor than they are
Correct.
provider. But
Yeah.
like they also take care of like all the stuff that like, we didn't do when we're in like, talking to like the internal medicine doctor who whatever like wherever they're
Yeah.
going to transfer to and coming up with a treatment plan and like what they've done and all that stuff. So, but
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And I mean, even then, like you're not really. I don't even think you're going to write all your own notes in the ER, right? Like you would have a scribe
Yeah,
or a
you got a
nurse who
Oh
took
scribe.
yeah,
notes in
like
that.
half of
You
them have
sign off on it.
scribed, just like, oh, that's nice. It's like super
Yeah.
nice. Like, oh, I got this person over here, like this lackey that's like hoping to get into medical school to write notes for me. Perfect.
And for everybody listening, don't think they're getting away with much because, I've literally seen, physicians that were in training, that were in their residency, like, doing emergency medicine rotations and just falling asleep in their fucking food. You know what I mean? Like these people, they get worked to death for like fucking 6 straight years. So,
Yeah.
the fact that they have a scribe now, it's like, whatever, throw them a bone.
Do you get
Right.
scribed as a resident, or do they did try to make you suffer?
No. Oh, no, no, no.
No.
Oh,
Fuck
okay.
no. You don't get shit as a resident.
I was about
You
to
just
say like,
get
that'd be too
you get
easy.
absolutely
Yeah,
shit on, dude.
that's
They
what you
treat
get for
residents
finishing it.
they treat them pretty bad, dude, from what I saw at teaching hospitals. Unless you're good. If you're good, you look the part, you're tough, you got some grit, like you don't you know, act like a little bitch, then you'll do well, type of thing. But there were a lot that, they're big complainers, man. Like they went into emergency medicine because they thought it was going to be an episode of a fucking House or something.
Yeah.
And then when like literally when they're seeing abdominal pain 40 times that day, they kind of start falling apart.
Right.
Where's
Yeah. And it's
I was just gonna.
what?
Where's emergency medicine fall in the line of like difficulty slash like how much like how much you get paid for being a emergency medicine doctor versus like if you went another route, is it
I think it's
up
towards the
high?
lower end, right? I thought it was towards the lower end, like mid to
Um,
lower.
I think it's right. I think it's a mid. I think it's fairly competitive. Um, but like I think it attracts a certain type of person. So
Mm.
and like the people that like I think it kind of attracts like sort of your alpha males, if you will, or like your extroverts. People that like want the attention, want to be in charge of like a team, like want to be like, hey, I'm the emergency medicine doctor. I'm the guy that you come to when like shit hits the fan. Um,
They like the
but
chaos of an ER.
it's you'll get paid pretty well, and it's fairly competitive. It's not like surgery. Surgery is the most competitive field you can go into. But it's up there. It's not like nephrology. Like you're not getting in like or like
Yeah,
ENT. Nobody wants to be a ear, nose, and throat doctor. Like, and there's barely any of them. So or
yeah.
hematology. Like not very
Yeah.
like oh man, I'm gonna stare at blood slides all day.
Ugh, that does
I
sound
knew
boring as fuck.
on my first duty station, my one of the pilots, one of my doctors was a pilot, a P3 pilot that got bored of being a pilot and was looking for a new challenge and became a doctor, and then ended up being an ENT, and then I ended up serving with him in Okinawa 7 years later. But it
Nice.
Oh
was like
shit.
Yeah,
That's
but he
cool.
was like, literally, I'm a pilot, but this is boring, so I want to be a doctor now. He's like one of those cases, right? Where he's like, not challenging enough. Let me up the ante.
That's I knew a dude. I knew a dude at battalion. He was an officer, and he's in emergency medicine residency right now. Um, so yeah.
Well, do you guys know that famous Navy SEAL who went Navy SEAL, doctor, and then became an astronaut?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's that guy's name? Asian guy. Like something.
Yeah,
Fuck, I forget his name.
literally just
yeah,
check. What's he do
Look
now?
him
He's
up.
like, now he's probably going to be depressed. He's like, what do I do from here? I already went to
he's
space.
Oh, Johnny Kim. That's his name. Johnny Kim.
that's it. Yep. Yeah, that dude is man. He'll make you feel real bad about what you're doing in life.
And he was a Navy SEAL that
I mean,
actually did an actual crazy operation in Iraq too. I forgot what it was called, but he was actually like did some crazy shit as a Navy SEAL too. It wasn't just like he came in, was a Navy SEAL, did some like shore stuff or nothing, but and then went on. He actually like did some crazy shit.
yeah. I mean, I I think I don't know, man. Like I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy. Obviously super duper hard worker. I just don't think it's that impossible. I mean, technically, Drew, like you're 2 steps away, right? Like you'd go to medical school, become a physician. Um, but if you didn't actually like take on a full-time residency and then become a doctor afterward and just instead applied to NASA, you probably do the same thing. The only thing is, you probably wouldn't get accepted to NASA because you weren't a Navy SEAL. And for whatever reason, everybody's on Navy SEALs' dicks about everything. So they're going to get picked up way faster. SEALs and pilots are going to get picked up way faster than if you come in there and you're just like, hey, yeah, like I was a grunt corpsman saving dudes in fucking Afghanistan. They're going to be like, we don't care. It's kind of a fucked up thing. But technically, I mean, what, dude? You're only a couple steps away.
True.
But I
True.
mean, not obviously not counting. I'm equating the military service thing. I'm not, whatever. I guess if you want to, fucking, pick, fucking, what's that called? Split hairs about being a Navy SEAL versus being a fucking infantry dude, shit like that, whatever. I think all that stuff doesn't matter at the end anyway. Um,
Yeah.
when
Well,
you
I
when you're
mean,
talking about being in NASA,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Well, I mean, shit, I think being a corpsman's probably the only reason why I even got a fucking interview at the place I got into or even got like through the door. So, good story.
Your experience as a corpsman
Yeah.
definitely, you know, helps
yeah, I
when
mean,
they're like, oh, he's actually done this shit. He knows what's actually entailed with the job, besides
see,
being a
that's what
scribe.
you would think. That's what you think, but I actually think it's the opposite. I don't know if you guys want to get into a big, conversation about the divide, the military civilian divide, but I actually think I couldn't disagree with you more on that. I think it's completely the opposite. I think when people see military on your resume, they see fucking risk. Straight up. It's a huge red flag. Um, I don't know what it is, dude, but I completely disagree. But my point with Johnny Kim thing is that like he didn't do residency, dude. So he only went to med school and then went straight to NASA. So technically, if you think about it, it's like he really had only been out of the Navy for 8 years. So you're on track, dude. You could become an astronaut. Don't sell yourself short. You could
Yeah.
race up to
True.
Johnny Kim.
New goals,
No
Drew. New goals.
no interest, bro. Space is boring.
I wouldn't like it just because I didn't like diving. And diving, dude, like, diving at night and you're like depending on this fucking thing and you can't tell up from down, left or right. It's real fucking I don't know. I don't like depending on life support systems. It's not my thing. I did it many times. I could suck it up, but I don't think being an astronaut's a job you suck up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it takes a
Right.
It's kind
long
of a
time
job
to
you
get
need to
there.
like.
I was gonna say is like you don't just be an astronaut for that roller coaster trip, awesome trip up into space, and then get back and be like, all right, I'm good. That was fun. I don't ever want to do that again, but I did it. You don't
Right.
become an astronaut for that. Definitely.
Yeah. Plus, like that spacewalk, I mean, that the cold vacuum of space, it's creepy, man. I want to get
Yeah, I
lost
think
out
it's creepy
there
too.
just in case something
Dude.
happens. I mean, nothing's gonna happen, but like, still weird.
I've met sat divers, so saturation divers. Have I ever told you guys my stories about sat divers?
I don't think
Maybe.
so. Maybe.
They're short because they're weird. They're super weird. Um, these are guys that like basically for everybody that's listening, excuse me, it's kind of an interesting thing. If you want, you can YouTube saturation diving. Basically, they send fucking teams of guys to do work like 1,000 feet down, in a diving bell, and they'll send these motherfuckers all like literally 1,000 feet down into this pressurized bell that keeps the water out. So they literally go in and out of it, and they like live inside this fucking bell. And they'll be down there for weeks, and then they have to come up for weeks, right? Because they have to do their decompression stops as they're coming up. I don't know all the specifics, so like I can't get into the technical side of it because I was wildly uninterested in this side of the diving world, and I had no reason to go below 25 feet ever. But it's like these guys are the weirdest people ever because they spend so much time like down 1,000 feet under the water with like two other people. They're really strange individuals, dude. And I would imagine that astronauts can be kind of the same way. Super nerdy, super intellectual, like borderline, have no EQ type of thing, right? Like they can't really interact with folks. I think that might be kind of the similar thing that goes on with both of them. I wouldn't want that either, you know?
Almost like submariners, but on a whole nother level,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, dude. I think it's probably the same, it's just like super brainy dudes. And we've all met the type, right? Like the super brainy guy that also kind of is a little socially awkward, not like the most fun to be around type of dude. I think that those are probably the type of people that maybe not Johnny Kim. Johnny Kim might be an outgoing, might be a badass dude to go drink beers with or whatever. But I think most of the people, generally speaking, are probably a little, they're kind of weird.
They're like
Yeah.
super introverts where they're totally okay with just being by themselves and doing a job and maybe just interact with one or two other people on like a small talk or here and there just to have like human interaction. But besides that, they're perfectly comfortable with just like having a task and just focusing on it. And
Yeah,
that's
think
probably what
about it. Like
attracts
think
them.
like what would it take for somebody to get you to do that job?
A lot
Probably
of
take a
money.
lot. Like, I mean, yeah, it'd take a lot, man. And it's like these people would do it for free. They love that shit. You know what I mean? Like they want to be alone in the creepy ass dark fucking places of the ocean or space. I don't know.
What
Yeah.
scares you more, space or the ocean? Because ocean scares me more than space.
I like I said, that's been the point. The point I've been trying to make is I treat them both like
The
literally. I
same.
treat them as equivalents. They're both places where I need a life support device to exist, and they're both places that are completely unknown and everything can kill you. Like any
Right.
malfunction on your person can just turn into the worst day you've ever had, and you're dead. You know?
True. Yep.
Yeah, I guess
So
like the big difference would be like if something goes wrong, like you got a matter of days left in space to where maybe if you're lucky, like in one of those dive bells, you maybe have weeks left. But other than that, like it's real bad either way if something goes real wrong. Cause
and you ever see those guys getting pulled out of the capsules when they come back from space?
Dude, they're fucked
They're
up.
fucking coming out in wheelchairs, bro. They're all fucked up, dude. They can't even
yeah.
walk under gravity. Their bones are all fucked up and shit. No
hmm
thanks, man.
Was also like
Yeah,
a
like
rescue team to go out of a saturation dive is a lot easier to scramble than out in space. You're fucked
No, for
to
sure.
Drew's
Yeah,
point.
but they have that shit so locked down that I don't think there's gonna be, and it's so low traffic that I don't think there's really gonna be any major catastrophes unless there's some kind of absolutely crazy unforeseen event. I mean, didn't they just have some problems on the International Space Station? And it's never a big deal.
Yeah, they
It's
just
never
locked
a big
off
deal.
a section of it like you do on a ship. They just airtighted it, just locked it off until they could fix it. It was like boom.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
I
a
mean,
ship. Well, that's like the big argument. So like maybe the answer might be space because like the ISS is like a mansion like that you would not see like there's no way you
yeah.
could build something like that under the water. So because
Mm-mm.
like they do exercise and stuff now in the ISS to like try to reduce the amount of like muscle and bone density that you're going to lose during your time in space where like if you're underwater in a dive bell like you're just fucked, like you're just at the mercy of like your body slowly atrophying because it's not under the pressure of gravity, although it is under a weird amount of water pressure, so I don't know if that has counters anything else. It probably fucks up your skeleton. It's not good to like
It
not be
does.
Yeah,
under stress of
The,
like gravity.
the sat divers get smaller over time. Like literally, we'll lose an inch of height or something like that
like
from
Yikes.
their
the
spines
pressure. Yeah.
this compression and it's just not over
Oh,
expanding.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's not
Jeez.
good. No, that's
Yeah,
good.
dude. Look it up,
Well,
man.
astronauts get
Saturation diving
taller
is
because
weird.
they have no gravity, so they get taller. I've seen the
Yeah.
treadmills on the International Space Station where they have like tethers that tie them down so they can try to run on run and try to get the impact of like some type of contact instead of just floating
Yep.
around.
See, that shit just seems like both annoying and exhausting. It's like, fuck, I gotta do this every day. Like, god damn, like this is hard enough. Like now I gotta exercise and I gotta tether myself to it. And yeah,
It's
space just
dude,
it's not fun.
I don't know. It isn't fun. It's been real weird. Have you guys seen all this stuff that's been in the news about aliens, man? People are really pumped about
Dude,
aliens lately.
Dude, people are
I was reading that
obsessed.
today.
They're super pumped. So they're doing right now, they are doing the Pentagon is like building a brief in order to brief Congress on UFOs. How dumb is that? Like, what do you think they're gonna actually say?
Yeah.
I
Right.
like, what do you think they're
Like
gonna say? You think they're gonna come out and be like, "Oh yeah, there's aliens." Like,
Yeah.
I
it's
don't
just
know.
gonna it's just gonna be like there's objects that we see in the sky from time to time. We don't know what their origin is, and they appear to break the laws of physics. So
Yeah.
that's all we
Well,
know.
I think it's interesting because there's like this kind of fervor around UFOs lately, and I heard a really compelling argument that I think like needs kind of to get more and more airtime, and that's the argument that like when you talk to someone, they're like, you're like, hey, like, they're like, hey, what do you think of all these UFOs? And you're like, oh, I don't buy it. Like, I don't believe it's true. And they're like, well, wait, have you seen the Tic Tac video or have you seen X UFO video? And you're like, yeah, I've seen it. Um, that's great. And they kind of use these videos as evidence. And the compelling argument that I've heard is, we have to kind of test these instruments as well, right? Because instruments fail us. And I think it's something that people don't think about very much at all. I think it's totally lost in translation all the time. And I think that's because science is hard and people typically aren't scientifically literate unless they study it. And so like if you got, for instance, like both of you guys, I thought it would be interesting to talk about with you guys because you're both, biology types. Like if you got an outrageous answer from doing spectrometry or whatever, what do you do first? Do you just report your findings to a journal and say, "Oh my God, like look at this great answer that I got," or do you go back and do rigorous science, check your scientific method and check your instruments, right?
Yeah, I'd go
Right.
back and
Like
be like, so what failed? What did is it
Right.
contaminated? Like, was it bad samples? And like
what's the
literally go
signal
back.
to noise ratio? Does that need to be
Mhm.
adjusted?
Room
As
temperature, humidity.
the old adage goes, measure twice, cut once.
Yep.
Very true.
Exactly.
If I got an
But
outrageous
So
answer, I would be like, all right, well, I fucked up. That'd be my first reaction. Like, I fucked up. And then I would have to repeat it multiple times and then be like, hey, can you do this and make sure I'm not crazy? That would be my reaction to it. And then maybe that's got some legs.
yeah, I mean, and because like I was very much a believer of a guy like Fravor, right? Commander Fravor from the Tic Tac video. So anybody who hasn't listened to this thing, you can find him on a million different podcasts or you could watch a video online. He was a Navy pilot who recorded a like Tic Tac shaped object that went from 80,000 feet in the air to like the surface of the water in less than a second, like in a fraction of a second. And he like when and where I found this argument so compelling is because during his interviews, he keeps saying, like, we saw, we saw, we saw, but you didn't see. That was instruments that picked that up, right? And that's what something where I was kind of getting tricked by some of his jargon. And I'm not saying he was trying to trick me. It's just these are complicated issues, right? And you need to kind of parse them out and think about them a lot. Um, but to me, I found that really compelling. Like you didn't see that, your instruments saw that. So like, were your instruments legit, right? And so that's when you start getting down the rabbit hole of like, what instruments saw this? How many instruments saw this? And then do we really trust military and government instruments, right? Because we worked for the government. Um, I'm not sure who's taking care of those instruments,
right.
but
It's
Like
they might
also
be from Texarkana, Texas. So
right, it's like the complicated tube or like laser designating system that was used on the F-18 Hornet that Fravor was flying that captured this video. Like, is that calibrated every single time before it goes out on a sortie? Like, I don't know. Um, but like
Exactly.
the one thing I would say is like it's hard because it's like people see shit all the time. Human memory is really bad. Like especially when you're like over an ocean, it's at night, like you start seeing weird shit.
Yep.
You've maybe been up for a little bit. But like, I don't know, Commander Fravor has been did it for like almost 30 years. I feel like he's a pretty reliable dude on like, hey, this is what like I saw. Like he might not have seen like it went exactly from like 80,000 feet to sea level like quickly, but he saw like movement that he cannot explain himself. The other thing about the argument is like not only did he see it, his wingman saw it as well. Multiple ships that he was a part of in the strike carrier group caught it on radar doing the same exact stuff. So like now you have all these points of these instruments that where you have to have many different points of failure. But then again, I like how often is the radar on like a cruiser or aircraft carrier calibrated or tested or I don't know. I don't who fucking knows, but
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. I just hadn't really you're totally right about like the multiple points of contact. I hadn't even entertained the idea of the instrumentation, right? Like I hadn't even thought.
right.
I just went typical, I don't have a lot of storage space. Let me put this to the back of the memory. And I just said, bro, radar saw it. Radar works by magic. So that must be true, right? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what I did. Um, and so,
Right.
I thought that that was more of a compelling thing because at least you have to ask that question, right? And I think a lot of people don't, including myself. And to your point, specifically, the thing definitely was actively jamming radar. They definitely did like visually see it, and they saw it on instrumentation. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't see something. I guess what I would say is that, like, if you saw something move from 80,000 feet to sea level, you were probably wrong. Maybe you did see something that was jamming your radar or that was fucking with your instruments, but you probably didn't see something on your instruments go from 80,000 to sea level for real. Like in reality, that didn't happen. Maybe it
Right.
was some type of advanced technology that another country has that is jamming your radar and making you see things on radar that aren't happening, right? Like that seems like it would be pretty
Like a cloak
useful
and
in a
dagger.
wartime environment. Yeah, like now all of a sudden, instead of seeing one thing, you see 1,000 things on radar and you're getting over jammed. You don't know what the fuck's happening. Um, I guess, to me, it's like, it's not because I want to believe all this stuff. I do. I want to believe it. It's just, dude, like, you know, when you're talking about something moving from 80,000 feet to sea level in less than a second, it's a physics problem at that point, right? Like that now we're not talking about like technology. We're talking about physics. Like, is our physics real?
Right.
Well, that's the biggest argument that when we talk about this is that I kind of subscribe to as Drew's is like, bro, physics or physics. So if you do
Yeah.
the math, you can't do that with the known physics. So is it? And I didn't think of the instrumentation stuff as well. I thought when he said I see it, I see it. But has anyone actually
Yep.
physically put eyes on this object without using instruments? Because it could be something that's a new form of let's just confuse them with like what is going on. Because think about the shock value, like what just happened, but really it was just a jamming while you just went down or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't get around
Yeah.
the physics argument.
That's what I don't get about exactly. It doesn't make sense that I don't know. I'm curious to see what will come out of all this though. And I like that there's a lot of I like that it's got a lot of people excited, It's kind of interesting.
And
Yeah. I
it's
mean, I just don't know, like, I don't know. I guess like you are they excited because it's evidence of like intelligent life out there, at least coming supposedly to our planet? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure the universe is pretty big. I'm pretty sure there's intelligent life out there. I just don't think it matters. Um, and I would hope that if there was, and it was capable of, traversing, 80,000 to sea level in like a second, that they would probably do more than just fly a bunch of tic tac shaped objects around us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean, you hear guys like Rogan who are like, they're doing bases in the sea because they want to kind of observe us like this is a fucking zoo or something, and they want to watch us. I mean, I don't think we're that complicated. I mean, we're complicated organisms, right? But to someone who's conquered interstellar travel, you would imagine that, like, what do you want to watch us for? I don't really get it. I mean, you'd figure you'd be able to kind of figure us out pretty quick.
Yeah, you've
Um,
seen that before. Like, oh, I've seen this.
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe even if you haven't, I mean, we're reproductive organisms that are driven by some basic biology, right? Like we have to eat, we have to, we have to sleep, we have to drink water or some type of fluids, and we have to fuck to procreate, right? Like that's kind of it. Those are the basic drives right there. I mean, sure, like, if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty of our nervous systems or individual cells and genetics, I'm sure it gets, complicated, but you don't need to watch something to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you just take its cells and then analyze them, You don't need to, like, observe them, you know what I mean? Like, if I wanted to know more about, like, monkey behavior, I don't think it would take me very long to figure out, like, what goes on with monkeys, you know?
Right.
I'm sure that, there's primatologists out there that would disagree with me to high heaven because, they're still studying the same stuff, but, like, it seems pretty basic to me. Doesn't seem crazy. And behavioral stuff is not very it doesn't seem very useful to me anyway as I'm thinking about it. Like, do you think behavioral studies are really that, like, super important? Because it reminds me of, like, behavioral economics where it's, like, impossible to predict people's behavior, right? Like, so everything that you do in economics, at least from a math side of it, operates under, basically that you have rational actors, right? That, like, if you walk into a supermarket and you see one good is priced less than the other, and they are completely, you could swap one good for the other with no problems, that you would always buy the cheaper good. But, one area of behavioral economics is brand loyalty. Why do people pay more for literally the same good? It could be exchanged completely, exactly the same, and one is lower price, but they still buy the higher price item. That's an irrational behavior that, like, you could study that till the end of time. You're probably not going to really figure it out, right? Same thing with, like, crime, and, like, weirdo shit. Like, you're never really going to figure that stuff out. Um, I don't know. I guess I'm just talking out loud, but, like, behavioral stuff just seems kind of boring. It's not
Uh,
really
it probably is when it comes to human behavior because humans act a lot more irrational than a lot of other animals. Like if you dig down deep into the principle, like the foundational, ethology, like so the people that's like first study this stuff, they're called ethologists. When you drill down to like their foundational studies or findings, like pretty easily like reproduce like almost like exactly how they did it like when they first discovered it. So like that's the
oh
one thing
shit.
of when it comes to like animals is like they're not like human beings. It is very easy to predict animal behavior like basically to like the point to where like people can predict how a bee will go through like a bunch of wildflowers like in a field.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So
crazy.
yeah. So the people like have put in the work at least. And like with animals it like not only describes or helps predict their behavior, it helps predict like how like communities form as a whole like what's the drives behind like the actual drive behind evolution and mating and like fitness and things like that, and that has a lot to do with like behavior as
Well,
well.
no, no, no. I'm not. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that a lot of that stuff is interesting. Maybe I'm just because I was talking out loud, I was kind of rambling a bit. Maybe I'm not being very clear, but my whole thing is like, I guess my primitive brain is looking at this as a function of cost. Like, why would you fly, let's say, 100,000 light years, um, to observe human behavior? That sounds like a real expensive zoo, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I won't even like they're one of the greatest zoos in America, the Bronx Zoo. I won't even fucking take the train there. I could give a fuck less. So, like, how did these aliens organize their society to want to fund, even if they don't use money, but like to fund via resources, a trip to the good old Pacific Ocean to study the US Navy's F-18 fucking patterns, like, I don't know,
Right.
it's kind of weird. It seems to me that if you're studying F-18 patterns, you're probably from Earth and you're probably not from America. And you're interested in why America is flying F-18s and how they're doing it, right? Like, it doesn't seem
Right.
like something that an alien would be really keen on knowing. I don't know. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were observing activity in
It
San Diego. Maybe they like the weather. I don't know.
They probably like the weather, bro. Everyone likes the weather there.
It's true. Stop in for some craft beer. I'd fly 100,000 miles, 100,000 light years to get some craft beer from San Diego. I love it. It's good.
Maybe
Samesies,
that's the
for sure.
maybe that's the vacation. They're just out here on vacation. They just got caught, trying to get some
Under
craft
the
beers.
Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any bets on what it is? Like, do you have any hunches or anything that hasn't been kind of talked about that you think it might be?
I think it might be like, unknown military technology, most likely. I just don't think it's aliens. Like, I just
That's
don't.
Yeah.
my bet.
Like missile technology or like drone technology we're not aware of. Maybe, I don't know.
I was
Yeah.
betting some type of Area 51 weird drone stuff where they could do some weird G forces because there's no pilot that they're testing. So they can just like dive straight down and pull without having to worry about the pilot passing out or anything. That's what my bet's on some type of military new flying technology that like no one can explain because no one's seen it, but yet they've been sloppy and got caught. So that's why I also don't think anything's going to come out with the Congress stuff. Because if it is anything, like, dude, they're not going to tell the public. They're too irrational. The people are going to freak out. And we're going to run out of toilet paper again. Like it's going to be bad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wish they would. If they did know, I wish they would say it because it'd be cool to know for once. But that's why I think they don't say it, is because they don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know.
but yeah, I wish I had a more interesting answer than you guys. But I pretty much, now that I've heard this instrumentation argument, I think it's probably a combined failure of instruments, and I think it's either foreign or, like you said, Mike, domestic technology that is that's kind of pushing the boundaries. Um, I think it's just spy shit, man. It's just straight up
Yeah.
fucking spy shit,
Well,
dude.
think about
That's
it. We
it.
take anything that's out of our normal perspective and think it's alien, right? Like if we didn't know that it was possible to do something, right? It's going to be alien. So what if we just don't know that, like, think about back before TVs and like cell phones were a thing. If you would have saw one on like out of nowhere, you'd be like, that's alien. But now it's like, oh, we can do that. So that's kind of also why I think it's maybe just some type of technology we don't know about yet. That it's hard for us to imagine because we haven't conceptually been able to like be exposed to it yet. But if we see it, it'll be like, oh, I get it.
You're like you're like teetering on the philosophical drill of like there are aliens here, but like what if they don't perceive or like have the same senses that we do? So like, or
Oh
like they
yeah,
have the ability to see our own, so they they create their own like existence in a imperceptible like imperceptible to human like life, and so like they could have been here the whole time but they elude our senses, and it's just like
yeah. It's the interdimensional
Yeah.
bullshit. Yeah, that's even more. That's even worse. Take that shit
yeah,
to fucking Sedona with the spirit wells.
right.
Fucking weirdos. I
Did
don't
you I
buy any of
think
that shit.
Oh, me neither. Do you think I think it was the first time Neil deGrasse Tyson was on Rogan. I think Rogan like ham-handedly tried to like bring that up to him, and like it was just it was funny or interesting to see like Neil deGrasse Tyson just like pick that thing up, like just pick it apart in front of him and just like, "Oh, well, what about this? What about that?" Like all like the holes in it.
Dude, I like Neil deGrasse Tyson when he's got the science hat on and he's like being very mild mannered and he's kind of going through his thing. I cannot listen to him on a podcast. He interrupts people so much and is just such a fucking asshole, dude. I can't
Dude.
listen to him, man. Like seriously. Like, but when he's doing his Cosmos thing or he's narrating something, he's obviously just really good. He's a good front man for astronomy and things like that. But like Jesus fuck, man. Let people talk, dude. Let people fucking talk. Holy hell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've noticed
take the
that with them.
he's like, "Kanye, I'm gonna let you finish."
No, he's so much worse, dude. Joe Rogan will bring like what you're talking about. Rogan will be like, "Oh yeah, like have you heard about these interdimensional?" And he'll be like, "No, yeah, let me give you 10 reasons why." And then not let you fucking say a word. It's like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah.
This isn't you're not hosting this. Like answer the
Right.
questions as they come,
You're
dude.
you're already the most famous scientist in the world. You don't need any more airtime. Like
Exactly.
So
Yeah, like
Shut it.
tease out. You know the answers already. Tease them out. Why do you got to just be like, I already know your argument. I'm just gonna squash it. Like, let's tease it out for the podcast so everybody can understand what's going on instead of being like, oh yeah, let me stop you. Because he would do it with like anything that came up that was in his head. He would do it. He'd be like anything that he would come into mind. He'd be like, oh, let me tell you a story about this. And Joe would like
Yeah.
try to ask a question or something. He'd be like, no, let me tell you about my hat. Or let me tell you about how I can flip my phone in my hands.
He
That's
sucks.
that's
He
why I don't need a
sucks.
case. You know, it's
oh,
like
dude, that's his worst take of all time. Do you like it was a few episodes ago when he was on Rogan's podcast, and Joe was like, "Oh, you don't have like a case on your phone." He's like, "Oh yeah, the reason why I don't have a case on my phone is because I constantly twirl it through my fingers like I'm in the military. You know, that's why the military twirls guns." I'm like, okay, just stay in your lane, bro. You don't know what you're talking about. First of all, not everybody like in the military twirls guns. Like that's a very specific thing. Like yes, there are
So
movements you
dumb.
do, but it's not so like you drop it. Like it's like, oh, you know, I do all these things with my rifles, I don't drop it. It's like, no, it's so you can fucking follow directions,
stupid.
you fucking Luddite.
that's why we do
That's
big
such a bad
formation
take.
movements.
Such a bad. It's like the most. It's like
Super
you're
bad
you're
take.
so smart and like well informed on like just stay in your. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about sometimes. Just
I thought it was because Joe started doing it too. He's like, really? He's like, yeah.
yeah,
He's like, if you
yeah.
can flip
Joe's
it,
dumbass.
then you have
And Joe's dumbass like,
the
oh, I'm gonna start
dexterity.
doing that too. Yeah,
Because he
Like,
said if you
fucking-
could do that, you have the dexterity that you will never drop your phone if you can flip it. I was
That's
like,
so
oh,
silly, dude.
It was like the
That's very
moment.
silly.
It was like the moment in Afghanistan when a crayon-eating Marine fucking showed some Afghan he was brushing his teeth with a fucking stick how to use a toothbrush.
Oh God, yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know, man. I think it's all pretty funny, but I think yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson, man, you gotta shape up, dude. You're not doing enough, dude. Take your
step your
ass back
game
to the
up.
Hayden Planetarium and talk in that nice, cool, calm voice as you navigate me through the universe inside the little fucking what is that? The planetarium's little movie theater.
Mhm.
And then other than that, shut up about your phone twirling and all your other
Yeah.
silly activities.
And no more like, oh, this is how this would work if this was like actual science in a movie. Nobody
Oh
cares.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
oh,
He
yeah.
loves to ruin everything. He
Dude,
We
loves
yeah.
to
we want to
ruin
be
it.
entertained sometimes, all right? You know, ignorance is bliss.
He
We get it. We
loves-
could have
I
the same
forgot about that.
We could have the same conversation with military movies about how we hate some like military side movies because they're so inaccurate. It's like we could go down that rabbit hole too. I bet you everybody has that industry they're in that could be like, oh, this movie sucks because it's not real. You don't have to like make it apparent that you
Bro.
ruin the whole thing.
Every fucking grenade that's ever been thrown on film, like they've never captured it like correctly. It's always like a huge fucking fireball that like, you know, fucking just melts people basically.
It's like a C4 block almost. It just blows up like a big bomb.
It's
in
like
movies.
it's like when they drop the fake bombs like at air shows where it's just napalm going off or like gasoline going off and it's just like
Yeah.
a big burst of like flame and then a bunch of smoke. But one day they'll do it right. It's a lot less fireball than you think and a lot more smoke.
Could you imagine if you literally made like a Twitter account just dedicated to trying to shit on military movies, like or action
bro.
films and how
Oh,
dude,
you have
I mean,
endless material.
yeah, and it would also just be so boring because well, I guess for us it would be boring. I don't know, maybe regular people believe that kind of shit, but um I don't know how you could watch a movie where a guy like just shoots endlessly and never reloads and not wonder like why has he got that thing attached to his gun if he never has to
Right.
redo it, you know? Like what the fuck?
I
And
like the full auto
whatever.
suppressors and like over and over, just a million rounds. It's like, oh, okay. You can just shoot forever without having any
Well, even
jams.
that's a little bit advanced, you know what I mean? Like when you start getting into stuff like that, but I mean just not even reloading?
Yeah.
Like
right.
shit, dude.
Well,
Like
well, everybody knows once you have a gun that's fully automatic, it's way more dangerous.
true. It's true, man. Dude, so speaking of guns, we're getting into this crazy shit. Have you fucking heard about this shootout in Florida with the kids?
Yeah.
Wow,
From the
fucking
home.
rampage against police, dude.
No, I
What
haven't heard
the-
of all this.
I saw that
You didn't hear about
yesterday.
this?
I didn't hear about this.
Oh my goodness, dude. So these fucking two kids. So Mike, where did they come from? A home? I don't know
Yeah,
the
they're
background, like, where they came from.
so they were like they weren't fosters, but they were like in one of like the homes that you would go to before you get fostered.
Oh, like a group home.
Yeah, like a group home, and they stole an AK and a shotgun, was it, or something, or
Well,
a
no,
pistol?
they busted out of whatever home they were in, and they broke into a residence where they found an AK with a shitload of ammo and a shotgun,
Yes, that's what it was.
and,
Yeah,
This
they've
happened in
just fucking
Florida?
yeah,
oh, where else would it happen, dude? You
Surprising.
know it, yeah,
yeah, bro. Yeah, they went
and
on
they
a ramp. It
fucking
was 13 and 9 or something like that, right? Ages
it was 12, I thought 12 and 10, I could be wrong, but
12. That might be close.
anyway,
Yeah, I was thinking
same
some.
ballpark, same
Yeah,
ballpark. Um, I mean, dude, they were young, dude, and, I mean, they were out there throwing down with the police, bro. They shot 2,000 rounds. They shot 2,000 rounds at the
Whoa.
cops, dude.
Jesus,
Straight
bro.
rampage, and the cops shot the little girl, and then the little boy gave up. Absolutely
Damn.
crazy story. They caught it on badge cam. I mean, dude, you could see because they had the ghetto bird up there, and it was flying around with its fucking white, like with its fucking what is that called? Fucking
Thermals or
the
white
thermals that are
phosphorus?
the white phosphorus thermals. Basically flying around, and you could see. I mean, dude, you could see the cops just bucking into the house, dude, from the front yard. It was crazy, dude. It's really nuts,
Dude.
dude. I could not believe. I mean, dude, like, could you imagine being those cops? One of the cops on the badge cam is so sad. He's like, dude, he's literally taking cover behind a tree. He's like, fuck, man, I don't want to shoot these fucking kids. Like, please don't make me shoot a fucking kid, type of thing. Like, praying that he doesn't have to shoot a kid. I'm like, God damn, dude.
Damn.
We're living in a crazy ass world, dude.
Dude.
Like, were any cops killed or injured? Like,
No, I'm sure there were some that were injured. I didn't hear of any getting directly shot.
I didn't either.
I only heard of the little girl getting hit once. I mean, I'm sure they were doing this shit, you know? I mean, dude,
right,
imagine being
right.
12 trying to shoot a fucking AK, you know? You're like, and you've never operated a firearm. It's like, maybe in Afghanistan that's normal, but here, not
Yeah.
too many
You know
12-year-olds
they're
know
you
how to
know they were
operate an
doing the
AK.
Haji blind fire like in the
Oh,
windows.
yeah.
Just that,
Yeah, for sure.
that's probably why the cops were like feeling bad too. Is like, dude, this like you guys are just causing us to have to intervene now. Like
Just
we don't
fucking
want to.
spraying, dude.
Dude, that's like the LA bank robbery shootout.
Dude,
Dude,
that's a great,
that's
great video too, man. It's one of the
that's
craziest things I've ever seen.
that's what
Dude,
started the
that's
whole militarization of the police, right, Rob? Was after that the cops were like, we need
yeah,
shit to
that's
contend with body
the
armor and full automatic
impetus of
weapons.
SWAT. SWAT was
Yes.
created after that.
Well, yeah, because all the cops that rolled up, all they had was service pistols and
They had
shotguns.
like fucking 38 specials. Like,
And these
Yeah,
dudes were fully armored with AKs, with drum mags, with armor piercing rounds. So,
hmm
like, even when they rolled up with trucks, the trucks just got shredded, dude.
yeah.
dude, that is a crazy video. They literally look like
So,
juggernauts from like Call of Duty now, or like something, like straight up.
yeah, no, and dude, they homemade those. So they stitched those
Damn, I didn't
together
know that.
themselves. Those guys, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, they also like I think they sewed in Kevlar, so like they had like not only do they like have heavy like the own like armor they built, they like made like their clothes out of Kevlar. Like they wore suits that were like Kevlar lined.
yeah. Dude, I mean, I don't know what the hell those guys were thinking over what. I don't even know what they got out of that fucking bank. Fucking not even 100K
Not
or something.
enough, tell you that.
Not enough, dude.
Dude,
Yeah.
they changed the paradigm of policing for less than 100K. At least make it worth it.
That's why you got to go diamonds, bro. You can carry fistful of
Yeah,
diamonds. You got
exactly.
fucking millions in your hand.
Fucking gazillions.
Cash is the
Well, and that's the
worst way
thing
to
is,
go.
all of those fucking things, they always this is how it always goes. It's like all these fucking incidents, it always ends up in a militarization of police because the police are kind of like how I hate on the TSA. They're purely kind of a reactive force. They're never ahead of crime, right? Like criminals stay ahead of them. Cops are the cats, the criminals are the mouse, right? And the mouse is always trying to stay a step ahead. And so, you know, that's how these things go, man. School shootings, like no one had thought of that. And then you create these kind of new vectors as people start to see like, oh shit, like, well, I can't do this because there's a heavy, police presence, or I can't do that because there's a heavy police presence. So then they start doing all these wacky other fucking things where they know they could, get a body count without being interfered with by the police. And so then the police take a new step and a new step and a new step and a new step, and it's kind of it's kind of always the same answer, you know. It's more of, and I don't understand how people don't recognize that it's more of a societal problem, more of a cultural problem than it is a fucking police problem. It's like you could have all the TSA that you want. Why do people want to blow up planes? You know what I mean? Like that's the real question. That's the question
Right.
you got to answer. Why does a guy want to put a bomb in his underwear? You know, like TSA wasn't thinking about that. You know, the same way cops aren't thinking about that. At a concert in Vegas, some guy's going to be in the fucking 50th floor of a fucking building and start shooting at everybody. Like you can't think of every scenario; it's impossible. You know, so
Right.
um,
Yeah, I think about
that's
that all the
that's how it
time
always
with
goes.
the liquid limitation for carry-ons. I'm like,
Yeah,
how long is it gonna be until some asshole like makes fucking a 3-part, fucking chemical explosive where he just mixes it. You take fucking 3 of those, little containers you're allowed to have, and then like what? You're not allowed to have anything on an airplane now. Like
right.
just your person, like everything's got to be checked. Maybe I don't know. And then even then, like they're gonna fucking X-ray all of that shit. It could get real stupid. But
I always look at it like the AI stuff with like, if we go to like self-driving car, like anything AI can be hacked by somebody that wants to hack it, right? And then it's always reaction is like it's a leapfrog. Like you come up with a defense that stops people from hacking you, they figure out how to beat it. Then now you got to figure out how to stop them. And it's like the same type of leapfrog. So it's like I look at it especially with like any type of technology is like, dude, anything that you have that is like on technology is going to can be hacked if somebody wants to hack it.
No,
It's
for
gonna
sure.
happen.
For
yeah,
sure, man. Now they're doing these, we've already seen the 2 incidents of it so far. I'm sure there's been more, maybe smaller time that I just didn't hear about, but, they did the energy one down in North Carolina or South Carolina, I forget. Um, and then they just recently did the biggest meat producer in the United States, where they basically do the hostage hacking, where they basically take all
Ransomware.
your data. There you go, ransomware. They fucking take all your data and they fucking hold that shit hostage until you deposit Bitcoin, you know? So it's
Yep.
crazy, man.
yeah.
Ransomware is nuts, dude. It's fucking bad.
I saw that they're gonna like the U.S. is proposing that you treat that like you do with like hostage negotiations. You don't negotiate.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like honestly, I think that's the right way to do it. You should not negotiate with people because then it emboldens other people. Like, look
Yeah.
what happened. They fucking paid, bro. That energy company. They fucking paid. They paid $5 million to get their data back. And then guess what, dude? It happened again to the meat producer. So it's like once people see that there's a market for something, they're gonna start to fill that void, dude. And forget it, man. It'll be over in a short time. Everybody's gonna start getting fucking smacked, you know?
I've heard
Yeah,
they also were talking about considering it terrorism too, to up the ante
I
as
mean it.
well.
I
I
mean,
mean
Pretty
it
much
basically
is.
is.
Yeah.
you attack our energy infrastructure, like you should, dude. Like I have zero mercy for people that are hiding behind computers, dude. Like, doing that kind of stuff. No mercy. Just because you didn't put a gun to anybody's head, dude. Like, you you held our energy infrastructure prisoner, dude. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you deserve a bullet for sure. You should get it.
Yeah, that's arguably worse than 9/11. Like, because if they shut that down for a long period of time,
Well, think if
imagine they
they're
did that
Well,
somewhere
activists.
yeah,
like if they did that in the middle of winter, like somewhere cold. That's bad. That's real bad.
Well, think if they're activists too, and they weren't out for the paycheck, and they were like, "We got it. We're not giving it back because we don't want to. We want to fuck you." Like then you're screwed. Think about it. When the last 2 months we'd have energy crisis, people putting gas in trash bags and fucking grocery store bags to try to hoard it, and now the meat as well. Like, luckily they're trying to get money and not actually want to hold it for like an actual reason, because then it would be way worse. We'd still
um,
be probably dealing with it.
Yeah.
yep. I don't know, man. It seems pretty dangerous to me. And exactly like Mike, what you just hit on, the fact that like somebody could scoop this kind of technology or these type of people up into their organizations and then use it for even more nefarious purposes. You know what I mean? Like we don't want money. What we want is political change or whatever. You know what I mean? And then it becomes
Hmm.
real terrorism. You know what I mean? Like we're not even out for financial gain. We just want to hurt you. You know? Like give a technology like that to ISIS, see what they do.
Or give
Right.
somebody that has that technology enough money, and ISIS, like let's say ISIS has the bankroll for it, and be like, yeah, hey, you want $100 million to do this? hack it and send us the data, and then they can hold it on a
Yeah.
flash drive as ransom in some cave somewhere, and that's it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. It's super sketch, but I'm not sure, man. I don't know where all the tech stuff's going. I know that we've got, we've talked about on the podcast before. We've got an aging infrastructure. That's why I'm kind of like, I don't agree with Biden's infrastructure bill, but I definitely think like maybe it potentially could be a step in the right direction because dude, our infrastructure is real bad, dude, and it's been real bad for a real long time. And that's not good. It's not good for any of us, dude. It's real nasty. I mean, you think about like, for instance, like roadways, man. Like there are places in the United States where like a standing military may not be able to get to. You know what I mean? If it became occupied, right? That's kind of dangerous when you think about it, right? Just from a roads perspective, or from a highway perspective, something like that, then you
Bare
start
bones
you know,
perspective.
yeah, you start extrapolating that and, you can notice a lot of weird shit could happen.
Well, it's
Yeah,
like
I
we're all centralized on the East Coast too for like a lot of our grid, so it's like we like corner our like where we get attacked, and the chain reaction could really just fuck us
yeah.
up because we don't have any stop losses anywhere. It's like, we're not built like a ship or the International Space Station where if like one area gets hacked or goes down, it doesn't stop there. They literally can leach into everything around there, everything that's connected to.
Yeah, we have 3 grids: East Coast, West Coast, and Texas.
Yeah, because Texas won't be part of the government grid.
Yeah,
That's
well,
why
they're
they
their
had
own
their
grid.
issues.
They're
Yeah.
their own grid.
That's what happened over the winter. That's why they couldn't get any extra power because no one else could push them extra power because of their own separate entity. So they couldn't use any
Yeah.
reserves.
Well, the thing with the infrastructure is, I mean, dude, they have got to be like, they've got to be talking about the infrastructure since what? Fucking, I don't know, since it was built when Eisenhower built it. But like, what point are we gonna get to when it's like somebody's gonna be like, "All right, stop fucking around. Like, we really do need to fucking overhaul all of the instruct. Like, what's it gonna take? Is it gonna take some catastrophe? Like, a bunch of people gonna have to die? Like,
That's my
what's it gonna
vote because
take?"
people react. It's a reactionary thing,
Well, but that's
Everyone
the
will see
thing is that
this.
this is the problem with like our style of government, right? Is, number one, we have kind of like three, I consider it three major camps, right? You have politically thinking. Yeah, I guess you could probably break that down more into like five or six, but just to keep it simple, you have your libbies, your lefties, you have your righties, your conservatives, and then you have libertarians, right? Libertarians don't want to spend their tax money on anything. They just walk out into the public good and think God gave it to them. They don't care. They don't give a fuck who paid for it. They just don't want to pay for it anymore, right? That's kind of their thing. The right wingers are like, we'll pay some taxes, but we'll only pay taxes up into an amount that we think is appropriate, right? Like, and there's appropriate ways to tax. And they think like taxing individuals over corporations for productivity reasons is probably the way to go. Then you have your libbies who want to raise taxes on corporations, and in some cases raise taxes on private individuals as well. You can't get them all to agree, and somebody's got to pay for this. And unless we all kind of agree on how to do it, it just becomes a political dogfight, and that's why you can't fix the infrastructure. And because we're, a federalist society, if, somewhere down in Texas, the grid goes down, you think a bunch of liberals in New York or California give a fuck? They're probably thankful that that happened. And they blame Texas government, right? That's how it works. Whenever something bad happens in Texas or in California, what do you think Texans say?
Same. Yep.
Everybody except for the people in Austin, they say fucking good
Yeah.
for them. Maybe change your government. Elections have consequences. That's what they say, right? They don't we don't we've kind of come to a point where we don't view each other as Americans anymore. We can't, like, you don't look at the guy that's on the left or on the right and say that's a fellow American. He just has a difference of how we should be taxed, right? You don't think like that. You just think, well, this is a fucking communist, or this is a fucking crazy guy, right? Or this is a fucking
It's a
Nazi. That's how
Nazi.
people
Yeah.
talk nowadays. That's how they talk nowadays. So, like, how are you going to get people to agree on how we should do infrastructure when you can't even get them to see that you are the same as them? You're an American just like them. We're all in this together. Like, I get we're from different states and, maybe have different views, but we're all doing this together. You can't get them to see that at all, dude. So that's the big problem.
Yeah. It's gonna take drastic event that kind of makes people realize that something has to change, and then it still would be a fight, even at that, of how you would change it. Even if everybody did agree that it needed to change or be fixed or overhauled, it would take years for them to agree on how to do it or how the money would be allocated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, and that's the thing with the political dogfight is it wouldn't even take years to figure out how they would do it. It would just take years to do anything. They would
Just
just
to get
stall and stall.
right, just to get to like proposals, like not even like,
Exactly.
actually drafting up, like getting something drafted and then signed and then executed.
It's just it's Mike. It's a distinction without a difference. It's the same fucking thing you said. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's just
Hmm.
political versus not. You know,
Yeah.
but
But
I don't know.
I don't know. Hopefully the bridges and roads stay in there for a little bit longer. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they'll stay as
Well,
long as people keep driving on them, I guess.
well, Pizza
Yeah.
Hut will pay for potholes if you call them and tell them no, you have a pothole on their route. They'll pay for it to be fixed. So hit up Pizza Hut.
Do they
It's a
really?
promotion. It was a promotion there. I don't know
Yeah,
if they're
they do
still
the
doing it.
promotion thing.
It was a promotion they did for a while where like they did a commercial where like a Pizza Hut driver hit a pothole and it messed up the pizza. They're like, let us know if you have potholes in your community and we'll come and fix them.
Bro,
So
Lakeshore Drive is fucking full of them, bro. I was on there one time with my motorcycle and it could have eaten me. I could have fell in. Nobody would have seen me for weeks. So you got some work to do there, Pizza Hut. Get to Lakeshore Drive.
there you go.
But speaking about governments and dumb ideas, have you guys been paying attention to all the COVID lotteries?
Oh
Oh
my
my
god,
goodness,
bro.
man. I've paid attention to a couple. I've heard of a couple. Obviously, haven't heard of them all because I'm sure there's a lot.
There's so many,
But
man. I can't even keep like I was just Googling it like the other day and there's like
what's the
easily
worst
like
one you've heard? Hold on,
uh
before you answer that, give us some backgrounds for the people that haven't heard about it.
so the background is that in order, just like the CDC relaxed the mask mandate, um, each state or a few states in the union have decided to incentivize people to go get their COVID vaccines, that they will do it by holding lotteries for people that already have their COVID vaccine. Now, each state is doing it a little bit differently. There's like Ohio, for example, is having a drawing of people that was vaccinated and they will receive $1 million. I believe Kentucky's doing the same thing. A couple other states are doing it as well. And then you have other
Colorado is
states,
doing $1 million.
Colorado. And then you have other states like California that will be doing like 50,000 dollars to who's ever vaccinated, it has at least one dose of the vaccine. Um, and they will do it pretty regular, like every couple of weeks, until they get their try to improve their vaccine numbers. So
Yeah. The article I read was people bitching that the military isn't included because the military got the vaccine or had to, so they don't get included in vaccine lotteries. And people
Suckers.
second class
throwing a fit about,
citizens,
yeah. Like there's
you
too
don't
many of
count.
you. We can't afford that. The water's down the pool.
Dude,
I can't
I
believe you
think
have to
all that
force
stuff is
people.
so fucking dumb.
Dude, it's so bad. It's like this. It's like goes back to a point of like how bad we are in a society where like you were mentioning like we don't look at each other as like fellow Americans anymore. Of like it's like you versus me or what my view versus you. It's like the same thing now. It's like we have to incentivize people to want to help society and help like this world global pandemic now by offering them money. It's like,
Oh,
dude,
dude,
you,
I look at this totally different than you. Oh, I look at it totally different. Go, finish up. Finish up. I just had
that
to
was
I had
for
to say that. I had to say that.
no. That was pretty much my view. Pretty much, it's like why are we incentivizing people to kind of just do like what you want to go out and do things, right? You want to go out to, you don't want to wear a mask anymore. You don't want to have restrictions when you go eat. You don't want to do these things, but you don't want to get a vaccine because unless you have a good reason, like unless you're like somebody that literally like it has a medical condition or has a legit reason why you are afraid of it, if you can say that. But I think it's a horrible way to try to get people to take the vaccine by offering them a bunch of money.
No, yeah. I mean, to me, dude, like, all right. So I'll start by saying this, dude. Like, there's credence to what you're saying, right? I think there's one side of the argument that could say, like, hey, the vaccine is kind of like it's like a public good, right? Like, it's like a thing where we want everyone to have access to it. We shouldn't necessarily incentivize it or punish people like, we shouldn't incentivize those who get it or punish those who don't. It's a public good. Like, if you want to get it because you understand, like, just like roads are, if you don't like fucking paying taxes, we can't like restrict you from the roads. Like, you could still use it, right? It's unenforceable. It's the same thing with a vaccine. Like, if you don't want the vaccine, you could still get the benefit of herd immunity. We can't force that. So what if we started rolling out laws that said, like, you didn't get the vaccine, so you're not allowed to go to the restaurant on Friday night. So something fucking crazy like that, right? That's kind of what's happening right now is the opposite of that, right? The incentivization of getting the vaccine. So from that perspective, I kind of see what you're saying and I kind of get it. But to me, in my opinion, overall, this is pure, in every instance, it's pure tyranny. Because number one, this is a government induced problem, right? So like, citizens did not shut down their restaurants. Citizens did not stop activities, right? Governments did. Governments mandated, you must do this, you must do that, right? Mass mandates, governments mandated shutdowns and closures of restaurants, shutdowns and closures of public goods. Governments did that. And now governments are rubber banding back and saying, we can't get certain communities to comply and get what we want from them. So therefore, now we're going to incentivize it from an economic perspective. I think that's pure tyranny. Pure tyranny, dude. You're taking money that isn't yours and you're redistributing it. You're redistributing wealth in a way that isn't congruent with like what I would, think is the American vision. And the reason I say that is because what is the number one thing you guys have ever heard about lotteries? If I was to answer that question, I would think
The
that
idiot tax.
Yeah.
that's it.
Yep.
It's a tax on the poor or it's an idiot tax, right? So who are they targeting with this? That would be my question, and that's why I refer to it as a tyranny, because they're not targeting your well-to-do citizen who is making a decision, yay or nay, right? Like, let's remove all the politics of the vaccine. Let's just put them all aside, right? Who is being targeted by this? It's people who are poor, who don't have a choice. And they say, oh my God, I could fucking be a millionaire if I just get this vaccine. It's like making somebody donate their body to science for a chance at fucking having a better life. It's kind of crazy, bro. It's not like, you don't like, nobody incentivizes you to be an organ donor.
Right.
It's kind of fucked up, man. It shouldn't be allowed. It really shouldn't. And in my opinion, like I said, it's pure, like, remove all the politics and all the thoughts you have about the vaccine. Just put those aside. It's just purely, what is the government doing? It is atrocious. It's not what government is there to do. I think it's fucked up, dude.
No, I agree. That's it's a really good point. Like, because if the vaccine was, I don't know, maybe government funded, it might be different because your tax dollars went into getting that. But dude, fucking Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson made the vaccine. Like, it's not trying to it's not trying to redistribute like what you already paid for back into the community. And then that's like, it's a fucking complicated problem. And like, I guess I really never even like equated it to the actual lottery, but that's a really good point. Like, fucking basically incentivizing these poor populations to go out and go get vaccinated. And dude, we're at 52%. I think the last I checked, we need to go up at least like another 30% if we want to get herd immunity, and that's a lot of people left. And I don't
Well,
think
our
having like a few lotteries here and there is going to get us to that goal.
no way. No, and I think last stats that I saw, if you believe the evil media, last stats I saw, it was our unvaccinated population is January 2021 levels of COVID. So when California was getting whacked, when New York was still kind of in the thick of it, that's our unvax. So if you dissect your population, you take your vaccinated folks, move them over here. You take your unvaccinated folks. That's what I'm hearing. So I wonder how true that is. I haven't given it the good old search down because we've been on vacation getting drunk every day. But I'd like to start exploring that because I think that that's an interesting statistic too. Because to me, that would say that the vaccine is working. Now, that's not me making any claims that the vaccine might not kill me in a year or two from now, right? That's just me making the claim that the vaccine seems to be working for those who are vaccinated. If they're not testing positive for COVID, or at a minimum, not experiencing symptoms of COVID that would make them go to a doctor, which to me seems still like it's probably a good thing. Um, lightening cases and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm not sure, man. I don't know. It is a complicated
Yeah.
problem.
That would be a really
Well,
interesting statistic, though, because that would literally be like the epitome of like looking at the statistic data of like, all right, well, let's not look at it as a whole for once and look to see what is the difference. You might not like the results if you break it down into like, actually population dynamics and the diversity. It might not look good, but it would probably shed light on like, is it actually working? Because that's a lot of people's questions, like, how effective is this going to
Efficacy.
be?
Sure.
Like,
yeah. Yeah, the demographic study would be interesting, but like if you guys are paying attention to what's going on in the Asian countries, so like these countries that have had like, literally went like weeks or days without like even reporting like a single case or like, single digits for like, way early in the pandemic.
Yeah.
They've lagged severely behind as far as vaccination. Um and now they're getting hammered. They're getting hammered
Really?
hard. Yeah.
China's
And so
on.
and so it looks
Wow.
like the one true way of really, cuz as the rest of the countries are kind of catching up with their numbers, we've become more vaccinated than them, so we've relaxed travel restrictions or standards, so more people are traveling or going out in the world, and so they're bringing the disease with them. So it's starting to look. I mean, this is all preliminary. Like I haven't really delved into it. I was just reading a couple articles on it. But it looks like vaccination is really the only way to kind of stop this thing in its tracks.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, I've always kind of I don't know. I'm a fan of vaccines. I don't think that look, there are certain things about the vaccines. I'll just preface it before, somebody starts pulling out their fucking tar and feathers. Look, man, the vaccine scares me for the reasons that like these large companies that develop them get complete passes. I think that those are a little inappropriate or at least should be shelf lifed. Um, for instance, like if this thing causes problems down the road, you should be monetarily responsible, right? Like that's just how it should be. That's the risk of doing business. I understand that to get them to bring a product to market does take certain, you know, it takes certain precautions. And this exists for everybody listening. Like this exists all the time, right? Like that's why, for instance, like patents exist. If someone, for instance, like if a drug maker wants to try to bring a drug to market, they have to be able to monetarily capitalize on that drug for a certain amount of years to recoup their initial R&D investment, right? Because Pfizer had a cash burn that was probably equivalent to like a fucking Facebook or a Snapchat. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I guarantee you they were burning fucking money in the furnace like crazy to develop this thing. And so you have to give a company like that, in order to get them to burn that money, you have to give them certain promises. And I'm okay with that. I think that that is is a feature of capitalism. It's what makes us very powerful in these markets. It's what allows us to have such a dominant foothold in the world on producing drugs, medicines, procedures, even medical procedures, even all different types of therapeutics. But I digress. My point is that that does scare me a little bit. You shouldn't have an indefinite monopoly on getting away with whatever kind of problems that come from this vaccine, right? I think short term, maybe that might be appropriate, but long term, it's probably not. That kind of
Yeah,
scares me.
that's my big thing with like the vaccines, and when people argue with like, oh, it happened, like they were able to make it in a year, like it can't be safe if they were able to come up with this new novel vaccine in a year. And then my counter arguments are usually like, well, when you have the world open source effort towards like creating a
Yeah.
vaccine, like that. And then the other thing I didn't know about this at the time was that they had a free pass, because I always throw out the monetary is like, these companies are not going to lose money. Like they have very, very smart people that literally do risk management on like, all right, if we do this, what are the chances that in 10 years we're gonna go bankrupt to being sued? Like every other pharmaceutical company that ends up getting a recall and you get a class action lawsuit or whatever, they're always responsible for it at the end of the day. So this, like the fact that they're not is definitely, I would say it's a cause for worry in the fact like you get a get out of jail free card. It's like, oh, you did this and everybody wanted it, so we'll give you a pass. But I that's
Well, it's
definitely
not. I
worrying.
don't. I don't think that they did this and everybody wanted it. That's why they got the pass. I think like to maybe some folks would find this to be a non sequitur, but just to kind of give you a small example, Mike, you own your home. If I was to tell you that you need to burn your house down in order to save your neighbor's house, right? What kind of assurances would you want from me?
I
Right? Like
want a
you
new
would have
house.
questions. You
Yeah.
would say like, yeah, I want stuff. I need to know that I'm taken care of. Like, sure, I'll burn my house down to save other people's lives and to save their livelihood. I'm a good person, but what the fuck am I getting out of this, right? That's
Hmm.
the same thing a company does. A company is basically a very big individual. We've decided that in the court of law in the United States. We treat companies as individuals. That's why they have a freedom of speech. We've decided this. This is old news. So of course, they're going to be hesitant to start throwing their money in the fucking chimney if they're not going to get anything out of it. And I don't blame them for that. Despite a world pandemic, if I was running Pfizer, I apologize to anybody that might be offended by this, but if I was running Pfizer, I don't care how many people die out there. I have an obligation to my shareholders. I have an obligation to myself. I have an obligation to my employees. I have an obligation to the future of building other drugs. Like people are going to survive this. It had like a 99% survival rate, right? That means there's going to be a lot of people that require my drugs and services down the road. Like I have fundamental things that I'm looking 100 years in the future to. So I don't blame them for thinking that way in any way.
No, I don't
I just think
I don't blame them at all
personally a
either.
little sketchy, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting. It's like I don't blame them either from the business aspect, and that's kind of what I was going back to. Like, I know from a business aspect that they're not going to push anything out that they like. There's a small chance that even a small chance of them being getting fucked in the long term, right? Because they had the 100-year plan. They're like, all right, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do next? So unless they
Yeah.
were like, so I didn't know that they got like a pass of being essentially sued, if that's right,
Yeah.
for like this. Like that's a whole different game because then it's like, oh, well, you take the risk out of it, that changes the whole dynamic of the equation. Take that variable out, and they're like, oh, I can only make money off of this. Sure, I'll throw money in the fire.
I don't know. I mean, I still like to think that these corporations aren't evil. And to people who are like, how could they make a vaccine so quickly in 1 year? Like, dude, like for our parents, right? Like, I don't know. My mom had me young, but she's in her 50s. When my mom was my age, it took her almost 15, maybe, I don't know, maybe closer to 20 years from her childhood to go from like an 8 track, fucking, what is that, vinyl record environment to a disc player, right? That took
Hmm.
almost 2 decades to cross that bridge. Look at the year 2000 to the year 2020. That's how we can produce a vaccine in 1 year because you went from the year 2000 listening to a disc player to the year 2020 having every disc player that ever existed in a fucking one, a 4x6 box. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think people's perception of technology, how technology has evolved over time, their perceptions of time, how they proportionally allot technology advancements through time. I think that's fucked up for them, especially for our older generations. No offense. Let's just be honest. You taught me how to use a spoon. I taught you how to use a computer. It's fair, right? We're all fair in here, right? I used to shit my pants. You're going to shit your pants one day. That's how it is. But yeah, I think especially our older generations are they're a little skewed on how technology advances, and I think the march of technology is exponential. It's crazy, and so yeah, for a global effort, um, you know, behind this thing, I'm unsurprised that they developed something that has some level of efficacy very quickly. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I also think they've been sitting on the mRNA technology for a while,
For
and this
sure.
was just an opportunity to use it on a large scale.
For sure. Ask Alex Jones. He knows it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I
Just
was
kidding.
gonna bring up the fact of like the ability to
Podcast banned,
engineer.
baby.
I was gonna bring up the fact of like our ability to engineer our way out of problems when we really need to. Because how much money was thrown into this COVID vaccine like thing? Like we don't throw money into that stuff on the norm. Like we don't. We work on it for years, putting as little into it as we can to get it. We don't put in ever like we don't just toss money at a problem and fix it. But if we did that
There
on
are
the
zero,
regular,
dude. Just to be hyperbolic, there are zero problems in the world that we shut our entire economies down for. Zero.
right?
It's the only one, dude.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, dude, come on. Like, are you really surprised when you throw like just unlimited budget to companies to be like, hey, fix this problem? They're gonna figure out. They're gonna hire the best and the brightest, and they're gonna work them. Like, they're gonna work their ass off because the people that are doing this in the scientific world are like they have that noble cause of like, I want to create the vaccine. So they're gonna get them working to the end of the time. Like they're gonna be pulling 20-hour days.
I wouldn't call it a noble cause. They just want their name attached to it. That's all.
They want the
Dirty
Nobel
scientists.
Prize.
That's it. Those
A
dirty
Nobel
scientists, that's all they
Prize.
want. I think no, Mike, you're right, dude. I think I think you're echoing some of my same sentiments as much as I'm echoing yours. I think
Mhm.
yeah, 100%. I think you're right. I don't know. Why don't we transition to what everybody's waiting to talk about, which is the big fucking nothing burger that is the Fauci emails. Why don't we
Oh,
talk
dude.
about that?
All
I
right.
love them.
Because that's what everybody wants to get to when it comes to vaccine, right? They want to, I mean, I don't know. I'll just throw my opinion out quick, and you guys could talk for the rest of the night because I think that I think the Fauci emails are a fucking joke. And anybody who thinks I'm influenced by some kind of big media source, just go and listen to the previous podcast. I don't know. Maybe you'll find a different attitude. But yeah, I think number one, I didn't see anything in there that was that crazy. It's like look, guys, 2016, 2017, we had a State Department wire that said this Wuhan lab is fucking engaged in some activity that could be dangerous, right? They're not using the right safety protocol. They're not doing things that we would expect a lab of this level to be doing. Lab leaks do not equate engineering. They just don't, right? Like, as Mike alluded to earlier, or specifically said, we had a worldwide effort. The genome of this thing was sequenced within, I think, a month, maybe 2 months, within 60 days, probably, somewhere in that range, 0 to 60 days. Genome sequenced. It was then open source shared globally with every scientist that wanted to look at it, and every person, human being, you and I, we could look at it. I don't know how to read it. I'm sure you don't know how to read it as a faithful listener of ours because you listen to us. But there's some scientists out there that know how to read it, and you would think that after a year of having open source genomic data on this thing, there would be some consensus that there are anomalies that make it engineered, right? I don't know. This whole boogeyman of like Chinese engineering, I think is kind of silly. I have my own really fun conspiracy theory. Maybe I'll share afterwards if you guys want to hear it. But I have my own fun conspiracy theory about Chinese engineering on this. But I think the whole thing's a waste of time. I think that he was a very busy dude. Everybody wanted his attention. There were 3,000 pages of emails that were leaked by BuzzFeed that I went through. I skimmed through maybe the first 200. Because I'm a person with a life. And honestly, man, like this guy was getting fucking pimped out by everybody, man. There were people hitting him up from local blood drives saying, like, dude, we're not going to have enough blood to go around at the local level. Like, I don't know what's going to happen at the national level. They're extrapolating these problems. He's getting fucking emailed by everybody, man. Like, I don't know. I think people cherry picked like 4 emails out of there that looked a little sus. And, they're making a big deal out of nothing. It's your guys' floor. It's my take.
The one email that I saw that people were like, you said that they pulled out was like him replying to somebody saying like, I don't think they really work because viruses are so small that any fabric mask will they'll just go
Masks.
through it. And then he directly replied to the person that was sending the emails like, you should be fine because you're going to be in a low risk area with a low population risk, so you shouldn't have to wear a mask. Because it was somebody literally emailed, I think it was like director of health or something at the time. They're literally emailing, or a previous director of health that was emailing like, hey, do I need to wear a mask? And he was like, well, technically, if you wear a cloth mask, it's not going to stop the virus because it's too small, and where you're going is not going to be a high risk area, so you should be good. That was like the big one I saw that was cherry picked.
Yeah, I saw that one a lot too. I mean, ultimately,
Yeah.
like there is no, as much as people wanted to be. I have certainly made my views of Fauci very evident. Not a fan. Thinks he need. I think he needs to stay away from the camera, stay in the Keebler treehouse, the Toll House. But it's a big old nothing burger. There's nothing there, and dude, all this does is it reveals everybody's cognitive dissonance. They're doing the exact thing that nobody ever would want done to them. They're cherry picking emails out of 3,000 that were released by a Freedom of Information Act from BuzzFeed.
Good. Drew, give a background on that. That's a great point. That it was freedom of information. These weren't leaked.
Right, these were
This was
not
just a
leaked
request.
emails. Yeah, this isn't like, oh, like, someone did some sleuthing or like, oh, look at what I found. Like, nope, you can go, you can actually, via Freedom of Information Act, ask any government agency for records. Now it is up to the agency to determine what they can or will release, because certain things do need to be redacted because there's, certain things they need to protect. But yeah, all of these emails were freely released to BuzzFeed, and then BuzzFeed released them to everybody else. And yeah, it's just a bunch of people trying to pick out things without context, like Mike said, bringing up and we know this at the very beginning. Fauci himself even said, you don't need to wear a mask. And at the very beginning, that's when this email is dated from. He's talking to a colleague about traveling to a low risk area. Says the same thing he said on camera the entire time until he changed his mind. Now, why he changed his mind, that's another thing you can debate. But yeah, it's just people are grasping for straws and being really unfair, which I guess shouldn't be shocking to anybody. But
And what was the date on the mask email? Because I want to say that was between January or March,
yeah, it
somewhere
was
in that
like
time frame, right? It was very early on.
very early on, within the first 3 months of we kind of knew there was a big global issue going on. And then as
So
far as
disingenuous, dude.
it really is. And then as far as as salacious and entertaining as the Wuhan lab purposely releasing accidentally releasing it from their lab, and that's what caused this.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, we've made this point several times on this podcast that we think China should have to answer for a lot of what this has caused. But what's more likely, the fact that it transferred via contamination of bat over and jumped onto humans, became super infectious, or it came from a lab? What's the opportunity for this is a very simple probability, which one's more likely than the other?
Right.
Yeah,
but
especially when you go to the wet lab, or the wet what are the farm markets
markets.
called? Wet markets. Where
Exactly.
literally you can walk down and there's just bats hanging up for you to buy. It's that is a very good kind of argument to it. It's dude, these people live there, and it's it easily could have been just circumstance,
Right.
Well,
And
I
there's
mean, what do you
historical
guys-
evidence for
No, go ahead, sorry.
previous. I was just saying there's historical precedent for previous infections, but
Oh, big time. Ton. I mean, going back to the bubonic plague, maybe before that, they're responsible. China is a huge landmass. It's responsible for many plagues. Anyway, I think some of the things that you guys talked about, with masks, we've talked about in the podcast before, having practice medicine and done the whole medicine thing. We know that masks don't stop this thing, right? When you put a mask on, it doesn't stop you from getting a virus, right? But when walks in with, say, an upper respiratory infection to a clinic, and they say, their chief complaint, they walk in and they talk to the person at the desk, and they say, yeah, I've had a cough for a couple of days and some congestion. I'm feeling real sick. What's the first thing they do? Here, put this mask on, sir or ma'am. Why do you think they do that? You think that they do that because Dr. Fauci is in a global conspiracy to fucking, make everybody wear masks in the nation? No, they do that because yes, it may not stop all viral particulates from making it through that mask, but it may limit the spread that you have when you shotgun spores out of your fucking mouth, because you're nasty and people are stupid and they don't cough in the crook of the elbow. They don't even have the decency sometimes to cough into their fucking hand. They're nasty. People are fucking gross. So sure, putting a mask on and letting them just cough into it, maybe it knocks them down to only 3 feet of spread. You know, um, this virus, we know it doesn't survive long, especially in UV light. Doesn't make it long on surfaces. Doesn't make it long outside of the body. So, I think masks are effective to a degree, and that was very fucked up very early on because you had a lot of things going on, man. You had one guy who was calling all the shots, who probably didn't have all the right information, and we had a lot of fucking supply constraints that would say, hey, like maybe we shouldn't tell everybody to wear a mask because then we're going to have constraints on our healthcare professionals, stuff like that. We saw what happened with N95s. N95s are what work. That's what really works against this virus. With wearing it, it will stop it from coming into your mask as long as you have a good seal. And those things disappeared. You could not find them. They disappeared so fast. There was a black market. People were making fake ones. They were making fake masks during a pandemic. I don't know, man. I don't know. The whole mask thing is really silly to me. Like people are looking to, I guess now basically Fauci's the second famous person in government behind Biden. Maybe the third if you consider Kamala Harris famous, but whatever. Um,
That's a good
and
point. That's a real good point.
I think they're looking for a fucking bone to pick. And what they should be doing is looking at their state legislature and saying, why'd you make me close my restaurant? Why'd you make me fucking not go outside for a year? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Instead, they're gonna look Dr. Fauci and they say, you told me to wear a mask. They were looking at you. No, we'll make excuses for my local legislature because everybody's so focused on the executive branch. It's all people care about because they never read one of these. They just don't get it. They just don't get it, people. You know? Read the Constitution. Learn a little bit
Right.
about your government.
It's a great example of why like appointing a czar like person
Terrible.
Fauci is just completely wrong because the whole mask thing that he fucked up in the beginning, like people like I talk to all the time about my problems with Fauci, and I bring up the mask thing all the time, and they're like, "Well, you were too hard on him. Like he had to make a really difficult decision." And I'm just like, "Well, that's why he's in that position. This dude has over 30 years of experience of dealing with infectious disease. He was the tip of the spear during the HIV/AIDS epidemic. He should have learned a lot of lessons from then." And you have been in this position. He's been in charge of NIH for a really long time. So the buck stops with you. You have to make the hard decisions. And when you crumble under the pressure, I'm gonna fucking hammer you for it because that's why you're there.
No,
And that's
that's fair.
ultimately why it's a big failure to have one person who's a czar-like figure to say, nope, this is what we are doing now.
No, that's totally fair. I think what you're saying, like as far as like he deserves to be hammered for his choices, 100%. I just don't think that Candace Owens and fucking Tucker Carlson should be calling for jail time because you
No,
know,
that's ridiculous.
yeah, they're number one. I could talk about Candace Owens as much of a fucking idiot as she is all day. Tucker Carlson probably about the same. Don't really care for him. But yeah, man, I think this was people had a lot. It's a classic image of the guy for people who can't see me right now. Maybe are listening to us down the road. It's the you turn them the Olympics. You're a big old fat guy. You got a big old beer gut. You like drinking your beer. You don't really work out much. You like eating your Five Guys on the weekends. Big old beer gut. You turn on fucking the Olympics. You're not wearing your shirt. You're in your boxers and you're just fucking eating chips. And you're laughing when somebody doesn't stick their landing. Or when somebody fucking, whenever anybody fucks up, right? You laugh. Oh, fuck, look at that loser, right? It's a classic thing. It's classic human behavior where we look at things and we say they're so easy, or we say, oh man, that would, I totally would have did that, or I totally could have did that. Classic human behavior, classic ego thing. And I think you're talking about a guy who probably had a very narrow focus, was very very in the weeds on certain things, had a novel virus pop up on him. And then, to give Fauci a little bit of credit here, I think Fauci was treated as an end all be all on fucking international relations, on fucking public policy, on things you don't want a guy who studies fucking viruses. You don't want him doing that. He's not the guy you want doing public relations. He's not the guy you want doing international relations, for Christ's sakes. That's not his job. And he's doing that. He's talking to other countries. He's telling why are you talking to other countries? You work for the National Institute of Health, not the International Institute of Health. Like, what are you doing, dude? Why? Why are you doing this?
We already got one of those. The World Health Organization said, no big deal. Nothing to worry
Right.
about.
Yeah.
3 days later, just kidding, pandemic.
With China, dude, they were China and them are buds, dude. They were fist bumping in the back. I mean, dude, like, I give the guy credit, but I think that's where he really made his big mistakes. Is I think he was embracing his celebrity a little too much. He was
Oh, he
living
leaned
every
into it for
scientist.
sure.
He was living every scientist's dream, and that's what people should be hammering about. Stop trying to be a fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson or Bill Nye the Science Guy. Fucking be Dr. Fauci and figure this problem out, and stop talking to England or anyone else. Maybe talk to England. We're friendly with them. They're not in the EU anymore. We like that, Um,
And
He
But
got
yeah,
shotgunned into a position he shouldn't have been in just by pure, like they put him in that position. He should have just been up there saying like,
Well,
"Hey, this is
because
what's up about the virus," and
think
that's
about
it.
it. What would you think about it? It's us three, Mike. It's us three. We go up and Joe Biden says, Rob, Joe, and Drew, you're America's last hope. What are your thoughts on this? How many people are going to go like this and just walk away? They're just going to throw their hands in the air and walk away. They don't want anything to do with that. Do you want to be the dude in the hot seat? I mean, is that your thing? Do you like that?
No,
Drew, you want to be in the hot
No.
seat? I
no,
mean, I don't
No.
know how I'd feel about it either. I don't know
especially
if I want to
making
be in the hot seat.
policy on a novel disease like that. That seems like I'm good on that. Like, you don't know what's gonna happen. Like, and he's kind of showed like that he kind of spoke too early, especially with even if he had good intentions with the mask thing of like let's try to keep the
Totally
first
fucked up.
responders in masks, but he still fucked up at the end of the day. Because if it does help, then he literally delayed it by how many months by not just coming out straight in. Because think about when he did go full force with it, dude. You had the American ingenuity of like everybody and their brother was making their own mask at home. So would it have been that big of a deal from the very beginning? He was like, "Yes, masks work, but we need them for our first responders." So and people would start making them on their own, like they did. Just took months to do it.
I think, like I said, I think people expect too much from one person. It's kind of like, yeah, maybe this is actually a tired argument from a guy like Joe Rogan who thinks, the president of the United States just has too much responsibility and shouldn't have so much authority. Um, I think what he's really saying is exactly what we're saying, in that, I think we're saying it more politically correctly, not in the sense of political correctness, that is like associated with liberalism or weirdo shit, but politically, you don't want a czar. You don't want one guy to be the end all, like Drew mentioned. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought
You
when it
you
comes to the
also
virus,
you also don't want celebrity doctors, I think.
that's so
Like
weird. It's so strange to me that it's so strange to me that he embraced that way. Like, for instance, like the general surgeon didn't. He didn't.
no.
And I mean, he probably could have. I mean,
Oh,
he also made some
he was
weird
making some
calls.
viral videos, bro.
And he probably could have embraced the celebrity super hardcore, but maybe he just had a little bit of discipline in his body from being in the military and decided, like, hey, I'm not going to do this. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not in those circles. But I really think the whole conspiratorial attitude that people have towards this is really silly. I mean, do you think like let's return to the China engineering thing, right? Like, do you think that China would engineer a virus that's just highly contagious but not lethal?
Or that's going to
Like, do you
affect their
think
whole
China
population as well.
well, do you just think China cares about eliminating the elderly Americans, or do you think China cares about eliminating the young Americans? I don't know.
No, no,
Mm,
that's the best
seems like
argument.
maybe you wouldn't wanna kill the people who don't fight in a war, right? Like, seems like you would wanna kill the people who do fight in a war. I don't know. It seems
Th-
weird. It seems
No,
weird that
that's
you'd be
a no.
engineering
It's a
this.
good point. It's a very good point. When you look at if they're engineering this, like, well, what was the outcome? Did it release before they finished it? Because it doesn't seem to be very effective in any type of scheme except for hurting your population that doesn't really contribute to what China would be afraid of, right? Like you mentioned, like military or, you know, people that can actually threaten them.
Well, maybe I could even entertain the argument that, like, it was meant to shut down our economy or destabilize us, but, like, we've been destabilized since 2016 without a or probably even before that, right? Like, I mean, we've been on the road to political destabilization at least. Um, and look at our economy. Our economy's crushing it now. We're ripping. We're getting back on the tracks, baby. You can't use a virus. Like, think about it, because think about it. Like, from an economic standpoint, you have everything on the tracks and then the train derails. The tracks are still there. You just put the train back on the tracks and they go, right? Like, nothing structurally about the economy has changed. Maybe we've lost a couple of businesses, but if you guys look at new job creation, new business creation, it's at its peak. People are starting businesses like crazy. Business confidence is nuts. Labor market confidence is nuts right now. If you believe the polls, which I do, I typically lean on them as fairly accurate. I wouldn't say they're 100%, or I wouldn't die by them, but I would say that they're, generally speaking, they cover the bases, right? They're not It's not idiots that are doing this stuff. Um, so I just don't see the point. I think that the Chinese, who are very smart and very forward thinking, they do not think in 4-year terms like Americans do. Americans think in 4-year cycles. Who's going to be my next president? China doesn't think that way. They already have their president forever. They think in 50-year cycles, right? Imagine what Americans could do if they thought in 50-year cycles. I'm not advocating for dictatorship. I'm just saying that that's a strength that they have over us. And so I think that the Chinese, if they were engineering something to release on us, would probably engineer something a little bit more robust than we're going to kill everybody with diabetes and who's over 80, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's not a dig on anyone who suffered a loss during this. I'm just kind of, from a 30,000-foot view, I'm just making a factual point that, like, in times of war, you don't want to kill the elderly or the weak. You want to kill the people who want to kill you, right? Like, so I don't know why the Chinese would do that. So I just think the whole engineering thing is weird. Like, just even from a rational perspective, not even, any kind of conspiracies or anything.
Don't go for chopping the head off the snake.
I think the if you were to so with the engineering thing, I completely agree with you, and that's one of the things that I will like say to other people is like, well, if they did it, they did it really bad. If that was their goal, they kind of fucked that
Right.
up. But the
Yeah,
other thing I will attest to is like, well, maybe it leaked, like the leak of like somewhat bad lab practice, and it got out
totally.
early. Like that's way more plausible of just bad lab practice because we all know China. You're never going to get the full story. You're never really going to find out what actually happened. So it could have just been as easy as incompetence, and it got out, and then they had to play, uh, try to make it the best they could after this because they also got devastated by it. Like, why would you release it where your whole population gets devastated by it as well, and your economy gets fucked? Even though they've rebounded the fastest and ended up selling us all their shit, so they made a lot of money, but and maybe that's the long game that I'm not
Well,
thinking about, but
they I mean, I don't think they made a lot of money off of this either. I think that's kind of a misnomer as well. I think we went through a 4-year long trade war that hurt them as much as it hurt us. And I don't think they made a ton of money off of COVID. But then again, we'll never know, right? Because it's China. I'm just inferring that from what Chinese or from what American import tariffs were, and I'll never know. But anyway, to your point about like how much it damaged them, I think they were relatively undamaged by it because they have a dictatorship and they could weld people under their houses. So they kind of, they cut that off pretty quick. But
I have
yeah, man.
so I was reading something today on that is they had they have a lockdown right now in southern China of like 5 or 6 million people with another outbreak with some like they called it like a homemade vaccine. So they literally
Mhm.
have 5 million people in southern China locked down. No one's allowed to leave, and they're doing like mass COVID testing. They're already getting people like testing positive for it, like almost another outbreak in southern. I read it, I think today or yesterday, and I thought that was interesting when we were talking about it. I figured I'd bring it up because like
Damn.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it, but
I
it doesn't surprise me because, the Asian countries take this disease they take any contagious disease very seriously, so
yeah.
I'm unsurprised.
Thought the lockdown would be because it was the Tiananmen Square anniversary and Tank
no,
Man.
surprisingly not. But well, we got like 10 minutes left. Drew, do you have any good movies or anything that you're looking forward to, or any I
Um,
know we've been on vacation,
I
so we
didn't.
haven't had a chance to watch much, but
I didn't. And there's nothing. There's nothing that I'm like super excited about that's coming up. But I did watch something that was awful on
really,
Netflix. Yeah, it
let's
was
give so you
terrible.
got the 0% Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
How's
yeah.
that? Was it worth?
It gets a 0% on the Rotten Tomato meter. Um,
Was it worse than
it,
X-Men or Wonder what was it Wonder Woman or
okay, it was better. It's better than. Well, it's definitely better than Mortal Kombat. I mean,
okay.
that's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It might not be better than Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman 84 might be better. But
Really?
it's a TV series that Netflix did. And it's called Jupiter's Legacy. It's based off of a comic book. And there's a lot of people that really like the comic book. I don't think it's that great. I think it's kind of a boring comic book. It goes too quickly. It's just like, I don't know, over the top to be over the top. But Jupiter's Legacy did so well on Netflix, it already got canceled. So we don't have to worry about it.
What?
It's gone. Um, Gets a big fat would not recommend. They drag what could like is literally one page in a comic book into 3 episodes on the television show. And you don't even get to see like the most iconic scene in the comic book in the TV show. And the fucking wigs that they used and whoever designed the costume for this show, they need to be drawn and quartered. That was the fucking worst costumes I've ever seen in my entire. Dude, the three of us could have come up with better costumes. I mean,
Damn.
the wigs in this were awful,
So
but
so Netflix didn't actually they didn't spend their good Netflix money on it, or they usually dump all their money into a series and it semi turns out good, at least cinematically.
yeah, it turns out Josh Duhamel playing like a 70-year-old superhero just doesn't look good. Who
Dude,
would have
that's
thunk
nuts.
it?
That's nuts. They stuck
Who'da thunk
one
it?
page into 3 episodes because usually the opposite. You get one episode that covers an entire book or something, and that's what ruins it is because you don't get the depth. But they went the reverse way and still fucked it up instead of
Yeah,
having the chance to go in depth.
and like, dude, the story is just boring to me. Like, it's just like, okay, it's about essentially the Justice League that came. They got their superpowers as a group of friends to get superpowers like during the Great Depression, and then they kind of like change the world and make the world a better place. The story is about these people. They have kids, and their kids are just fuck ups. They're just like they're super entitled. They're assholes. Like they just don't want to. They're like they're not good people, and it's just like these parents. They're super out of touch with their kids because they weren't parents. They were superheroes, and their kids are just assholes. And like I don't know. That's just not like the most interesting story to me. Super unrelatable. Like I don't.
Sounds like more of a
Okay, like.
drama that I would watch like at 9 o'clock in the
Like,
morning when I'm sitting at home all day or something. My kids are fuck ups and I'm a superhero and blah blah blah.
yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a superhero setup at all. Um,
Yeah, they didn't even get to the best part. Like in the comic book, like the kids murder their parents, which is like it's super metal, and they don't even do it in the TV show.
Yikes.
Like they didn't even get to that point, and
Well,
now
that's
it's canceled.
way
So,
too graphic, bro. You can't do that in
Yeah,
2021.
no way.
dude, the
Yeah.
way that the son kills his father in the comic books is fucking awesome.
What's he
He
do?
So he distracts his dad by redirecting a comet into plummeting towards Earth. And he's like, "Oh shit!" And like he just immediately flies off to go stop it. Like I gotta go stop this comet from hitting Earth. And he gets all the way to it, and there are about 1,000 nuclear bombs attached to the comet. And as soon as he gets there, they detonate. So he's all super fucked up and like super weak when he hits the ground. And then his son comes up to him and he goes, "Fuck you, Dad. I never even liked you." Grabs his skull and fucking heat visions him through his own eyes all the way until like his skin's gone, his skull's completely like exposed, and his brain and skull and eyes are hollowed out. Pretty
Damn.
fucking epic. And you're not gonna see that on
Jeez.
television.
Bro, if they were gonna
No
get
way.
canceled anyways, it might as well have got canceled. That's a way better way to get canceled besides having a shitty series. At least
I
get
know,
canceled
right?
for
At
being
least
too
you had
graphic.
that, but now we're not
Fuck.
even gonna see that in live action.
Dude, that would have been like the one
um,
thing that everybody would have watched the episode. Like, dude, that was the season finale would have
Just
been
for the
awesome,
killing.
dude.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
like,
like
at least it ended on a high note.
yeah.
dude, fucking so you told me to watch Tenet. I watched it, and now you have to explain it to me because
Dude, I can't even
fucking
explain it to you. I don't know what the
I
fuck
thought it was
that.
I thought it was a really cool movie. I just did not understand the whole like, bro, by the time it was a crazy ass fucking movie. It was cool. The special effects were badass. That was Denzel Washington's son. I didn't know that he
Mhm.
was an actor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
he's
John
crazy.
in
David Washington.
he's
I had
in
no
his
idea.
last movie too that he did with like I forgot what it was called, but he did another movie with he's with his son, and like I think his son plays like him earlier or something like that. But
Hmm.
that is crazy.
No,
The
yeah. Mike, have you watched? You haven't watched it yet?
I haven't watched it yet. No, I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, check it
I
out,
would have
dude.
to watch
Check it
it.
out.
If you
It's
couldn't
good.
figure it
It is
out, I doubt I'll
it's
figure
good.
it out.
Well, it's not about figuring it out. It's just a good movie. It is. It is just
Okay.
like it's a well put together movie, but it's like it's one of those kind of psychological thrillers that keeps you engaged because you're kind of trying to figure out the fuck's going on because the sciencey time travel shit doesn't. It's hard to wrap your fucking head around. And like
Yeah.
the narratives that fit into the meta narrative are like they're fucking hard to figure out. So like
Oh,
that's why
dude,
I
I
liked it because
get
it was like a puzzle. It's like a
yeah, I
puzzle.
Yeah.
get super into those, especially with TV shows. That's how I'll stay up
Oh,
all
you'll
night
like
until
it
six
then.
in the morning watching like, oh, one more. Oh, just one more. I think I figured it out. Oh, just one more. And then I'm up until 6 in the morning going, fuck,
You'll
man,
like
I
it then
still
for
haven't
sure.
figured it out yet.
It's I shit on that movie when I first saw it because I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? And then I watched it a few more times. I'm like, okay, it kind of makes a little bit more sense now, and I'm kind of into it. The thing that is atrocious about Tenet is the sound mixing is awful. So
Dude,
like,
the sound mixing was bad. It was like they recorded sorry, I just wanted to give you my opinion before you give the professional one because I know you're gonna have a way better opinion than mine. But what I was gonna say is it sounded like they took like a pre-recorded line of maybe like fight scene or some shit, and then they just played it backwards. That's
yeah,
literally what it sounded like to me. That's literally what it sounded like, dude.
yeah, no,
That's probably not how you would say it in the audio world, but it literally sounded like that.
it's awful because the dialogue it was mixed at such a low volume compared to like the atmospheric stuff and then like the special effects. It's like you have to crank your shit up so high to like just
That's
catch
why,
the
dude,
dialogue that is going on. And then your fucking eardrums blown out like when something crazy happens.
I couldn't listen to it on the airplane. We were gonna watch
Right.
so like we flew back first class because we had a credit, not because we're rich. We flew back for fucking first class. And dude, by the way, anybody out there listening, if you fucking like United, just unsubscribe from this podcast, get lost. Or not United, I'm sorry, American Airlines. They're dude. If you like them, stop listening to this podcast right now. But anyway, fucking American Airlines fucking sucks. Even their first class was fucking awful. Their first class didn't even have fucking TVs in the
My
thing.
grandfather's rolling in his grave right now.
Oh
Dude, I
god.
fucking hate American Airlines, dude. But anyway,
Delta's the way to
that
go.
yeah, Delta's the only way I usually fly, but I have like my Delta card gives me a companion pass annually, and they only do round trips. They don't do one ways. So I needed a one way back. So I had to take what I could get, right? Anyway, couldn't watch it on the plane because of that. When I was listening to headphones, it doesn't mix it properly to where the audio was literally you could not hear it. All I could hear was sound effects.
Right.
Oh,
But when I watched it at
dude.
home, I didn't find it as bad as you were saying, Drew. I thought it was okay. Okay, it wasn't as bad, like, definitely noticeably louder, on the sound effect side, the effect side, but not, like, to the degree where, like, I had to kill myself to crank it up or anything.
Yeah. I mean, the sound mixing in it is so bad that directors wrote to Christopher Nolan and be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Because like this is a notorious thing with Christopher Nolan is his sound mixing is awful. And so like
Mm.
like there's like a coalition of directors like this is enough. Like stop doing this. What are you doing? Um, he's like your movies
Get a
are
real sound mixer.
yeah, he's like, your movies are unwatchable because you literally can't even hear what one character is saying to another.
That's
But
crazy to
Yeah.
think about. It's like,
I
do you have millions of dollars? You can hire somebody that doesn't cost a lot of money to do
well,
a way better
do you
job.
know why Bane sounds so stupid and ridiculous in The Dark Knight Rises? Like, do you know
Mm.
why he sounds like this?
Oh, yeah, okay. I don't know why,
They,
but, yeah, now that you said that, I immediately
they
remembered how ridiculous he sounded.
right. They I was bored of the darkness. They were originally recorded they actually shot the entire film where Tom Hardy was literally just talking through a mask. Like there wasn't like, there wasn't a microphone inside it and like or it
Oh,
wasn't like he went into a booth and then like they recorded all of his lines and then put it through an effect to make it sound like he was maybe talking through like just straight up like literally sounds like garbage because he's trying to talk through a fucking mask, and like you're not given any help, like any amplification. And then they demoed the movie, and they're like, "What the fuck are you? Like, literally can't even understand what this character is. Who is this character? Like, I can't even understand what he's saying." So then they had to go back through the entire movie and reshoot all of Tom Hardy's scenes and do it through ADR. And so that's why he sounds fucking ridiculous as Bane.
that's
So he's
I
got a
didn't know that.
history. Yeah, he's got a
It's
history of
crazy.
this. On top of like
damn.
Tom Hardy made some choices when he decided to play Bane. He went for it.
Yeah.
He's like,
I
I'm gonna be a ridiculous caricature of a comic book character.
I don't know, man. I definitely, as far as new movies and new shows go, Tenet's, I guess, the one that you've spoken about that I've watched. Other than I've been watching, Mayor of Easttown. I'm not into that,
Oh, I
but
just finished that.
okay. Don't
Um,
tell me what happens. I got like
it
2 more to go.
it's okay. It's fine.
It's not that good. I'm not that into it. They
It's
lost me in the middle when she's planted drugs. I was like, "This is stupid. I'm done with this show."
yeah, I'm just not
But
like invested in this fucking terrible human being of like terrible human beings.
yeah,
Like I don't
like
know.
I don't I guess they made it gritty so that it'd be more relatable, but I don't relate to
Right,
it
like, I'm
like
just, like,
that.
watching and I'm like, "These are all garbage human beings, like, why do I care? Like, why am I I'm just watching
Right.
it now for completion, like, I'm
Yeah,
this
it's a
far in, like, I
Jerry
gotta finish it
Jerry
now."
Springer Jerry
Yeah,
Springer HBO series style.
right.
Was it like Shameless, where like Shameless just a show about just shitty people doing crazy shit that was like
Yeah, it's
super
like
popular until like the third season was like, all right, you're just getting too extreme now.
kind of. It's like that, except, like, Shameless kinda knows what it's, like, self-aware. It tries to be funny at times, um, and where this is just, like, it's super serious the entire time. She's like,
Mm.
"I okay, your son fucking killed himself, alright, I get it, like, it's hard. Fuck."
Yeah. No, I get it. Where they're just overplaying it, dude.
Yeah.
Hardcore. But do you have anything you recommend watching? Anything new that you've seen or heard of that you're interested in? Anything we could talk about for next episode? Because I think we're out of time.
Not that I can think of.
Nothing new? Yeah.
Nothing
I don't
new.
have anything either. I'm trying to think of things I was excited to watch, but I've been thinking about it, maybe in the same vein, but I've been thinking about buying Biomutant that game, but I don't think I will. We'll see.
Mm.
See how it
Oh,
goes.
I just thought of something. The new season of Rick and Morty is supposed to come out soon.
Oh, I saw
Dude,
that.
better be good
Finally.
because the last season I wasn't into.
No, I wasn't
Yeah.
into either.
I wasn't into
No.
the last season, so I'm hoping it fucking turns around. Dude, one of the greatest shows ever for sure. But
Dude,
it
100%.
really reminds me of two people that I know. I won't bring their names up on here, but Dude, it is like, I mean, I wish everyone listening could. I wish we could just have them both on from one episode, so everyone listening could just realize that we literally have the basis of Rick and Morty in our minds. Like we know them. You know, we know who they are. They're our. We know them. You know, but yeah, I don't think it'll ever happen. It'll never happen.
Nah.
Alrighty, well, you guys got any last
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
closing suggestions or anything before we call
Yeah,
it a
don't send your
wrap?
kids to college unless it's free.
Yeah, it's absolutely a waste of
Peace.
time. Don't do it.
Right. And don't apply to medical school. You almost cost me from getting in. Fucking Fauci effect.
All right, everybody, we will catch you next week. Have a good week.
Later.
Peace.